let me just put that on. I was saying the A plus philosophy, which is the underpinnings, not just for the entire way of impeccability, but the story that we're going to read now, and of course the Biala series. It's very much like our like this background here behind me. Everything connects, and what I enjoy is so Rachel, I'm getting a background noise in your TV on again.
Yeah, I'll give me a minute. I'll turn it down.
All right, no problem. No problem.
Maybe I can mute it because I'm playing a game while I'm talking to you.
Right, okay, all right.
So I don't really need it's got subtitles anyway, so.
There you go. Yeah, see, I have the TV on most of the time as well, and music. I always got music going on. Yeah, I think I'm actually hearing your game, not the TV. Oh, it's better now. All right. No, there it's back again.
It's my controller.
Right. Okay.
You're going to hear me bashing buttons, and if I start saying fin meg or finde, I'm swearing, so just ignore it.
All right, no problem. So anyway, I was saying, in terms of that connectivity that you were talking about, where the woman connected all. Man, this is what's really been a joy for me, like with Donna and Bina, especially because they've been in it for the longest now. How, when we started off, it's like that chapter today. There's a lot coming in. I'm going to mute you for a second here while I explain this. So there's a lot coming in. And initially, like in this chapter, there was a lot happening and all these different concepts. But then in the beginning, they just like listened and absorbed and just kind of took it all in and just kept going. And that persistence, then slowly but surely, they started to connect everything. And now they just connect, and it's just fantastic to see. And the same with Ryan. You saw the same thing today. He was connecting it all like that. That's where the magic is, when we start to see that connectivity to everything. It's just fantastic. Just fantastic. I just love it.
You have to be careful, though, when you do things like that, because there's a thing in psychology, give it a label, which is called flooding oneself.
Correct.
Where you overload yourself with so much information. Yeah. So it's always best to focus on one at a time. I mean, you can connect the dots later.
Correct. But here's the key. Yes, you focus on one at a time. But because we were going one at a time, then one at a time, and another one at a time, but we're doing lots of one at a times, all kind of, there was this muchness coming in. And I made a point to say, just don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just let it wait. Just come. It will come. It will connect, And then, of course, as we go through it, the things connect as well. That's very exciting. That's very exciting. So, you got to be careful of it. But it can't be avoided because the nature of what we are engaged in, everything is connected to everything else. You can't really separate awareness and appropriateness and attunement, for instance, or character or impeccable. None of them can be separated. So, yes, you deal one at a time, but inevitably they're always connected. Just the nature of it.
What I mean is, you can't separate awareness and attunement.
Right.
So, therefore, one area where awareness and attunement, converge, you focus on that, and then you, think of it as three circles. When you turn the middle circle, then the other two on the left and right hand side, at the top left and right, part of that will turn with it, where it all converges together.
Right.
So rather than turning one at a time like a puzzle, you turn the one in the center and then you turn the two at the side.
Right.
So you can come up with an elaborate pattern where it all connects together.
Right.
So I'm not necessarily trying to separate them, just there's an area let's say, I'm a bit short-tempered, I'm not very patient. So if I want to focus on that, then I've got to do the awareness and the attunement, but I'm focusing solely on patience in that aspect.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So so we keep the overall in mind, and then we immerse in the focused, and then we come back out to the overall. Then we go into the focus of the emotion, and we come back out. So that's the process. Yeah.
That's basically what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to say if I want to focus on my anger and my patience and this and that and the other, then it all will start becoming chaotic.
Right, exactly. No, I agree. And it's very important because, but it's difficult in the way of impeccability because it is so all connected. And with the A+ philosophy, you've seen the mind map that I have, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, then you see the connectivity like that, and that's just a 2D
Yeah.
mind map. It really should be a 3D mind map. But anyway, all right. So let's get going here. So I'm gonna just setting this up in a moment. You can read that, okay, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm on my laptop, so I can see everything fine.
Ah, brilliant. Okay, good. All right. So you got a choice. You can choose to be the boy or the old man or both or neither. It's up to you. There's not much dialogue here.
Who's the wisest?
It's mostly the narrator. Say that again.
Who's the wisest out of the young boy and the old man?
Oh, that's a good question. Hmm. You'll have to decide at the end of the story.
Right. Okay.
Seriously, I mean that's a great question. I mean, typically, obviously, you would assume it's the old man, but because in this case he is the teacher, the master. And the young boy calls him master. It's just that type of a
Yeah.
relationship. It's back
When
in
I
the day.
call you.
This is very much a back in the day story. So. But
Mhm.
but not necessarily, as you'll see. You'll see it as it goes along. So it's a very excellent question, very intuitive, prescient question, actually.
I haven't even read it yet.
Right,
How
exactly.
about you can be you're a young soul. I'm an old soul. So
Okay.
I'll be the old man.
All
You can
right,
be the
all
young
right,
boy.
brilliant. You read. Oh, okay, I'll read the young boy. All right, perfect. I love it. And then I'll read the narrator as well. So since your throat, I don't want to stress your throat. So, yeah, and that's good because between they're not that much dialogue, but you'll see. Okay.
Ah, whereas my throat's concerned, when my throat's concerned, I actually have a secret weapon up my sleeve.
Brilliant. Which is what?
Green tea. It actually soothes.
Brilliant.
I
Actually,
got
I
the
have to
strepsils as well, so don't worry.
get out of screen share for a second. So, all right, Rachel, you ready? I'm gonna go live, and then as soon as the live things get kicked in, then I'll go back to the screen share. I have to wait till that all takes care of itself, and then I do the screen share. So, all right.
Hi, master.
Ah,
It's Japanese.
brilliant.
I know a bit
Okay.
of Japanese as well.
Yeah, Japanese is very powerful stuff.
I
Lots of
love it.
going on.
Japanese, you have to put it when you do that Japanese accent. You have to do the accent. When you do the language, you have to do the accent as well, like
Oh
Norwegian.
yeah. Oh, when you do
But
Japanese lessons, they when we lived in the dojo, in the Kido dojo, they had it was actually the Japanese Cultural Center in Chicago. So it wasn't just in the Kido dojo. They did the flower arranging and speech lessons and kendo and all sorts of stuff. Um, so we heard them do the lessons.
oh,
Yeah, so they
you
would
watch
teach the
Naruto,
people
right?
to say when you pronouncing Japanese, you've got to get into that macho mood and mindset. That's how you get the right pronunciation. It's not just saying hi. No, it's hi. You got to get that. There's a
Yeah,
macho-ness
but
to it. Very important.
it's different. It's different for women and men. They pronounce the words differently. So if I was going to do it the female way, then it'd be hi, because
Right,
I got to be cute and
right,
innocent.
right.
However, you watch Naruto. Before we get started, you watch Naruto, right?
Yes,
Have
yes.
you watched the subbed or the dubbed?
I watch it. Well, usually it's got kind of both actually.
Right. So you've heard Kurama in the subbed, right?
Oh, it's been a long time. I have. It's been a
He's the
while.
fox.
Yeah.
He's the fox that lives inside Naruto. His name's
Oh,
Kurama.
right. Yeah.
In the Japanese version, I can actually do his voice, and I do it with my friends as
Wow.
well. He thinks it's funny. It's Uzumaki Naruto.
Very cool. Yeah, you got that nicely. Wow.
See, and that's
Wow.
what freaks a lot of people out when I do things like that, because they're like, "Oh my god, you
Well,
sound
you
like a
gotta
dude."
you gotta stop thinking that us here in the group are most people. I hope by now you realize that we're not, right?
Nah, I see myself as a person, which is why I don't mind regressing
Yeah,
my voice and
exactly.
doing
I
funny
mean,
things.
no, I'm saying that I don't think anybody here in the group will be freaked out by that voice. They'll just say, "Oh, cool, Rachel, that's awesome."
It's more like shock, because when you listen to my voice, you expect to hear a female.
Yeah,
So when you don't have the prior knowledge that I'm transgender, and I do things like that, it's just
right.
like, what the fuck?
I know, but even so, though, I mean, especially if you're on Facebook or on internet, you see people do all these incredible voices and stuff. It's just, yeah. I think there's a bit more leeway nowadays for the unusual. Let's just put it that way.
I think it's hilarious because
Yeah.
women can actually sound like men and men can sound like women because there's a lot of
I
voice
know. I love
boxes
it.
up
I love
that
it.
way.
I love it. It's very profound. Yes, I agree.
I think it's really good because you have those that were designed to carry children, those designed to give children, but back in like a very old philosophical way, men and women didn't exist.
Right. Right.
And sexuality didn't exist. You just fall in love with whoever.
Right. All right, Rachel. Here we
I think
go.
that's
Yeah, no, I love it. I agree with you. It's very exciting. There's so much exciting stuff in the world. It's very cool. So, I hey, all right, let's go. All right. All right. So you're gonna read the old man, and
yeah.
again, sometimes when the dialogues come up, I'll just scroll down a little bit. Just you'll see like it doesn't say the old man, the boy. It just kind of alternates, and you'll get the rhythm of it. So
Just
you'll
give me a prompt because I'm not very good with that kind of thing.
yeah. Okay. Well, you'll see. You'll see. So okay. Yeah, I will figure it out as we go along. But just so you know, it doesn't always say the old man or the boy. Yeah, you'll get the hang of it. So, okay, so let's start our story here. The Impeccable Warrior, Part One. And let me before I get going, even a little bit more, just wanna bring this up. We gotta do.
Honey?
Yeah. Well, no, I gotta do the screen share so you can actually see it. Yeah.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah. So I'm still hearing your game a little bit, Rachel.
I paused it.
Yeah. Oh, I
I
got
think
you.
what you can actually hear is probably my PlayStation because it sounds like it's overheating a little bit.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. All right. Not to worry. Okay. The Impeccable Warrior, Part One. I could not resist. The portal promised too much. I knew it was not yet fully tested, but I had opportunity. Seized now with the fullness of my intent to know. What if only this once? Unbearable. Worse than the risks. I grabbed the dials with a fervor born out of desperation and passion. I spun, channeling my considerable energies, still hearing the purd clicking as I stepped through. The realness astounded me. I had been prepared for it to be real, but not this real. Aside from my insubstantiality, everything was as it would be had I been there in my full corporeality. The heat pressed on me first, the kind found far away from buildings. I tasted dust, incongruent with the relative cool stone beneath my bare feet. It would seem my ephemeral self was naked, just as well it could not be seen. Not that I am prudish, but what I saw, well, I would have liked to be wearing something more appropriate. The assault of spectacle on my senses has me thinking of a famous virtual reality movie, trying to describe it as best I can remember. The opening scene is of an old man and a teenage boy sitting on the edge of a cliff. By their dress, I am transported many, many centuries back into the past. Perhaps not even our past, I do not know. Behind them is a large, extensive mountain range extending away into a rough circle, enclosing a small mountain kingdom. In front of them is a broad, wide plain with smaller mountains on the far side of it. The plain is filled with an enormous army. Interspersed between occasional rows of armored elephants are closely packed individual armies, the combined force of the Emperor of 1,000 kingdoms, as I would later come to learn. It is a pan-continental army. Every mode and style of fighter and armor is to be seen. Below and to the front of the old man and the boy are the emperor's entourage and personal guard. He is relaxing on a large high platform with a canopy, waiting like one savoring a predetermined treat. Banners and flags around the edge. On either side of the self-satisfied emperor, on smaller thrones, are the lesser kings whom he has subjugated, whose armies have been absorbed into the great army. Surrounding the platform are a variety of warriors, fighters, individually armored, standing out from the various armies as more than common soldiers. The old man explains details about the emperor and his army to the boy. He points out the personal guard of the emperor and explains their fighting styles. Set a few ranks back in the ranks of the armies surrounding the emperor are the champions of the armies, the giants, true giants, 2 to 3 times the size of the soldiers. They are fairly scarce. Further behind are more giants spread out among the armies. There are occasional groups of elephants and various large armored animals. Some carry groups of warriors. Why are there no archers? The boy asks.
That me? Nope,
Hmm?
that's me. Okay, where are we?
All right, yeah.
Right. I gotta try and see if we can figure out a voice. It'll
Haha.
come as I read.
Yeah, just let it come. No worries.
The Emperor is paranoid about assassination.
No, he's not. He's not. He's not a pompous old man. He's a cool guy.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is he really chill?
that's the emperor's voice that you reading, not the boy's voice. So when we get
Right.
to the emperor, you can read that because the emperor does have a couple of lines. So all right, but just
Okay, right, okay. So I'm a little. Am I the young boy or the old
no,
man?
you the emperor. Just read it in your Rachel voice. Your Rachel voice is perfect
Okay.
for the emperor.
The Emperor is paranoid about assassination.
The old man explains.
His great army is forced together. Many of his subjugated kings would dearly love to see him dead. His personal guard is formidable. They can take on a small army by themselves if there are no archers.
He points to the armies in the foreground.
See how many they are. See how they are intermingled. The Emperor has been clever in the way he has blended the armies. He has not broken them up, that they wouldn't have led to resistance. He has simply set many train with another army, very effectively mixing the armies. No army can now move against another without anyone knowing. It is a very clever system.
The boy is staring at the emperor. He is so magnificent. The boy is entranced by the splendor of the royal entourage and the emperor himself. The emperor is a large man in the most splendid armor of all. He has a hard, cruel, proud, arrogant face.
Study the man,
The old man chides.
not the armor.
Yes, master.
Now tell me what you see.
He's extremely vain.
Very good. You are learning quickly. You were right to the heart of the matter. Everything flows from that.
But what are we going to do? The boy earnestly asks. Even with the help of the mountains, there are too many. It is only a matter of time before they find the hidden ways in. The old man smiles a sparse smile and points. Directly below them is a lone warrior. He is in armor unlike any ever seen. It is a mixture of many styles. It looks light and flexible, but obviously sturdy. He has an air and demeanor to him that's similar to anything amongst the armies. He is sober, aware. He has an air of confidence and humility. He knows he is extremely skilled, but never overestimates those skills or relies solely on them. One warrior! The boy is incredulous. We are sending one warrior against an entire army, the biggest army ever. The old man nods in agreement in the direction of the warrior.
Set aside anything you know right now.
He commands the boy.
Go to your place of emptiness and watch without judgment. Tell me what you see that is noteworthy.
The boy quietens, his attention on the warrior now. The warrior is striding with a meaningful stride toward a wall of soldiers who have turned to face him. He is striding purposefully towards the emperor's party. His focus and attention is on the emperor and his party, the boy says.
Yes, and
He is completely ignoring the fact that the soldiers are blocking his way.
what else?
He is striding like he's in a slight hurry, but he's trying not to show he is in a hurry.
Is he really?
No, the boy exclaims, surprised. I would not have noticed if I did not know him, if you did not point it out. It is subtle, yet obvious, but not in an obvious way.
Why?
The boy trails off as the warrior is close to the front line now. His stride has not wavered, even in the slightest. His focus is still on the emperor. It is as if he has not even noticed the soldiers. No, they are simply not important enough for him to pay attention to, the boy says. The soldiers in the front rank directly in front of the warrior are now also putting this together, the confusion and doubt coming into their faces. The warrior is about to crash right into them. Their expressions turn to alarm, not towards him, But as they realize he is obviously meant to be going to the emperor and they may be interfering with him, they scurry to clear a path for him. He doesn't break stride and continues his purposeful march towards the emperor's group. That was great, the boy excited. He forced them to move. He used his presence to affect them.
Stay calm and pay attention.
The old man reminds him.
Don't be distracted by emotion.
The warrior is coming to the space between the emperor's entourage, between the emperor's elaborate stage and the armies surrounding it. He's evidently a man with a purpose. He comes to a halt.
Why did he stop at that precise spot?
The old man asks. The boy thinks for a few moments. He stopped before he was halted.
Yes. What else?
The old man prompts him. The old man gives him a mild smack on the back of the head. The boy's mouth snaps instantly shut. The reminder noted and not resented. A warrior never says, he repeats the old man's oft-repeated lesson. He concentrates, taking in looking at all the various elements near the warrior. He's in a battlefield. I mean, his battlefield.
Yes, go on.
The old man is pleased. Yeah, that's okay. Encouraged, the boy continues. He has picked the most strategic spot. I am saying this from knowing him. It has to be. I am working backwards from there, as you taught me. Why? The boy scans the individual warriors of the emperor's personal guard. He has picked a spot fairly close to some of the weaker ones among the guard. It is said as a half question. He looks to the old man for confirmation. The old man nods. But the boy starts, the realization coming to him. He plans to fight them, he asks, astonished, his composure momentarily forgotten. He's incredulous. But it is an entire army, and not just any army. The boy has heard tales of individual warriors defeating armies, but those armies had been hundreds or maybe thousands. And while the warriors defeated many, there were also many other factors involved. Long-term strategies of attrition, tactics of taking out the sentries over many nights, and so on. He had never known a tale of a warrior walking into the midst of an army, even a small one, let alone the largest army ever.
Still yourself.
The old man reminds him.
A warrior does what he needs to. Nothing else is relevant.
And adds.
For it is then a warrior is impeccable. That was impeccable, right?
For it is then that the warrior is impeccable. No, it's cool. The old man just continues. That's all. He just goes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was just trying to figure out that word.
Yeah. Oh, impeccable.
Watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. So let's read that whole last little thing again where it says, still yourself. Read okay. From there. Yeah.
Okay. It's just I've been practicing Norwegian for a little while, so I need to brush up on my English.
No problem. It's just it's a very critical key point in the story. So.
Okay. Still yourself.
The old man reminds him.
A warrior does what he needs to. Nothing else is relevant.
And adds.
For it is then that a warrior is impeccable. Watch.
The old man says.
This is the pivotal moment.
The warrior takes a small step forwards and straightens himself, as if he is steeling himself to make a big announcement, with just a hint of bombast, like he wants his moment in the sun, but it is muted. He looks towards the emperor, but not precisely at him, and says, I have come to fight you. The briefest pause. Your entire army. Everyone within earshot breaks out laughing at this preposterous idea. The warrior has an air of not liking being laughed at, but he's trying not to let it show.
Explain to me.
The old man says.
Oh, 1 minute. I need to move the little thing.
Yeah.
Explain to me like you are a teacher explaining to a student. That is the only way you will become a master, to learn to think like one.
He is setting the stage. He's laying the battlefield. The boy concentrates, thinking it through as he had been taught. He is setting himself up to be played with. He is showing them he has this hidden pride, that he overestimates himself. He has skill, yes, but he thinks he is much greater than he is. He is inviting the emperor to humiliate him. Something a bit more, the boy adds. He is setting up a situation whereby the emperor will want to see him come to the realization himself that he is not as good as he thinks. He is creating the difference between between getting the emperor to want to see him defeated and to see him lose.
And the exact difference.
The old man asks. They have a few moments. The emperor is taking his time thinking the matter over. The one involves circumstances being against you, and the other involves insufficient ability or skill. The warrior, still bristling ever so slightly, says, "Of course, I can't fight them all at once. I'll fight them one at a time." More laughter meets his claims. "And if I win, you agree to leave us alone." He goes on over the laughter. This time the emperor, who had only been smiling, also breaks out into a big laugh, ending the laughter of everyone else. The emperor was known to rarely laugh. "No," he laughs, "no deals." The warrior seems not to have heard. "I will even kill them with their own weapons," he says, gesturing to the small group of veteran personal guard at the far side of the emperor's pavilion. The warrior has shifted slightly towards them. He has not only made the emperor want to humiliate him, he now has added interest and intrigue, the boy says.
These kinds of men love their bloody sports.
The old man says grimly. The boy is impressed. He has nicely maneuvered him. The boy realizes the warrior means to fight the entire personal guard. He has a chance. There aren't too many of them. About a dozen or so could be seen.
That's all there.
That's all he
That's
is.
all there is.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's all there is.
The old man explained.
Sorry.
No worries. The emperor is not very trusting, as they are mostly for show. They are real warriors, yes, and highly skilled, but they serve as fighters, not soldiers or even guards. Part of their function is as executioners in forced fights. They fight duels with enemy champions. They prize their favored styles and weapons. But, the boy begins,
Where are we? Oh, there we are. Thank you. The real personal guards are those giants.
the old man points to the giant scene spread out through the vast army.
The ones near the front ranks are all loyal to the emperor, another reason for the ban on the bows and crossbows. The giants are vulnerable to those.
Ah, the boy says, taking it all in.
Once the giants swear loyalty, they are fiercely loyal, a bit temperamental, but excellent bodyguards.
The warrior is still looking at the veteran guards, as if trying to get them to challenge him. But the emperor gestures to less seasoned a less seasoned guard nearest the warrior. "You first." The lack of confidence is not lost on the guard, who smiles sourly as he approaches the warrior. The guard draws his preferred weapon, a long, slim blade. "And one for him," the emperor reminds. The guard smirks as he draws a second, much shorter blade, tossing it to the warrior with a self-satisfied wink. The warrior catches the blade with a slight lack of amusement, but appears resolved to deal with things as they may come. He grips it in a reverse grip, with the blade running out along the inside of his forearm. The guard is circling, trying to get his measure, but the warrior just stands there, holding the knife. Other than the grip, he gives no indication whatsoever of style or intention. The warrior is giving the impression he is a bit unsure of how to proceed, the boy comments. The guard closes on him, taking advantage of the indecision. The warrior reacts, seemingly a bit late, his free hand going toward off the blade, but missing because he is a bit late, slamming it into the wrist instead. The warrior, just for a split second, grasps the wrist with his thumb and forefinger only, maintaining the impression of his hand being open, and pulls the blade in towards him, stabbing the sharp-pointed blade into the armor on his right side, turning at the last second, an apparent clumsy attempt to avoid the strike. As the blade penetrates, he twists back the other way, leveraging the blade, causing it to become stuck in the armor. His twist takes his other hand, still gripping the blade with a reverse grip, across the now immobile wrist of the guard. The warrior tightens his own knife wrist right as the blade bites, and extends his knife wrist downward and out, severing the guard's hand completely. The guard leaps back, screaming, not in pain as much as at the horror of losing his blade hand. The warrior takes a few steps after him, seeming to almost want to apologize. The emperor is laughing. He wants them to see him as lucky, the boy says.
Yes. Ho, 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 ho.
The old man briefly chuckles. He did not he did not delight in unnecessary violence, but the skill of the performance is excellent. The
I
scream.
grabbed my belly for that reason.
It's all good. Sorry, he did not delight in unnecessary violence, but the skill of the performance is excellent. The screams will also be a distraction and add some doubt, the boy adds. The emperor indicates a short but burly guard with an axe and a shield. He is in armor, his axe a heavy axe, but not overly heavy as those that want to intimidate with size will want to carry. It is geared to fighting heavy plate mail armor. He reaches for a similar axe, but before he can, the warrior pulls his own axe from his belt. It is a small axe, the head and blade not much bigger than an open hand. The blade is curved with the points extending back toward the handle. It looks like an axe used for chopping kindling. The warrior seems not to have noticed his adversary reaching for the bigger axe, but does so now and starts to put his axe away. The axeman smiles with derision, tossing back the second large axe, locking the warrior into his mistake. Laughter breaks out at this and all the warrior's foolishness for assuming. He prefers his own axe, of course. The boy states the obvious, just in case. That bigger axe would have been a severe liability, clumsy and heavy, a weapon for those with no idea of the realities of fighting, something used for show and intimidation purposes only by these fighters. The warrior continues with his movement to put away his axe and starts towards the large axe, looking to take it himself. He is moving past the axeman towards the large axe, his eyes and attention on the large axe, ignoring the axeman. Axeman is having nothing of it and starts to move. The warrior reacts as if startled by the unexpected attack, but instead of leaping back, he leaps towards the axeman, his own axe now redrawn. He takes a swing high in the air towards the shield. As if by instinct, the axeman reflexively raises his shield. The warrior extends his arm just that extra bit, his axe head just missing the top of the shield, hooking the bottom point over the edge. The warrior pulls down sharply, pulling the shield down and to the side, into the axeman's axe arm, blocking it temporarily. The warrior grabs the top of the shield with his other hand, simultaneously shoving the axe forward. It slams into the chest plate of the axeman, doing no damage. But as the axeman is drawing his head back in surprise at this unexpected attack, the top point of the small axe slips in under the bottom of the axeman's visor, lifting it up and ramming the top point of the axe in under his chin. The warrior jerks it back and down with a slight twist, hacking away a portion of the throat. A great gush of blood spurts out all over him, giving him a ghoulish appearance. He wants the blood all over him. He wants to add as many contradictions as possible. They will think him a fool, but the scary appearance adds internal conflict. He adds, a warrior is diminished by uncertainty. The axeman falls to his knees, the warrior reaching towards him, seemingly surprised at the effect of his attack, like he had practiced the attack, but has never actually used it in battle. We'll pause here for a second. Say again, Rachel.
You've been messaged.
Right. Yeah. Let me just take care of that quickly. Yeah, just Tara has kids as well, so I just sent her that Hedgie story. Um, Brilliant. So I do want to pause here a little bit because I'm not sure how
Oh my
clear it is, but I mean, ah,
can you say that again? You cut off a little bit.
I will in a moment. Sorry, I broke myself. All right, cool. Yeah, I love that Hedgie story. It's a children's story, but I just love it. You'll see. We'll read it at some point. I know.
Is it a hedgehog?
Yeah, he's the Hedgie, the undercover hedgehog. Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God, we actually had a hedgehog that came to my house when I was a small child,
Wow.
and we called it Hedgie the Hedgehog.
Oh wow. Oh wow. Well, it's kind of an obvious name,
Literally.
hedgehog, but what I like is, well, you'll see. I don't want to get into the story now, but anyway, Hedgie's just he's fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Just saying, it had like a personal thing to me because I had a hedgehog.
What, say again?
Sorry,
That's
it
all right.
had just a personal thing. It just invoked a memory. That's all.
No, I love it. I love it. It's fantastic. So when we read Edgy, you can tell me all about your Edgy. I love that. So to get back to our warrior, I'm not sure,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming it's kind of obvious that the warrior is playing all of them, right? That the warrior is a master strategist, in other words, right? And he's cueing them in all of these different ways. And I love this particular cueing where he's now cueing them in this next part of his cueing them that he's I forget what they call, a practice ground hero. I love this. So all right, let's read on. But I mean, that's coming through the fact that the warrior is this master strategist, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not
I
just
kind of figured.
Say again?
I kind of figured because it basically, I'm a story writer myself,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah, that's why I
So
wanted
I know
you to
the
read this
art
with
of,
me.
and I did media in college as well, which was about story arc, and you did like the hero's journey and
Right,
where it
right.
originated from and whatever. But the whole point in media and storytelling in particular is to hint at something,
Correct.
and then you portray a character as like this dumb person who's taken on an entire army, but you're slowly and surely hinting at little things that seem like there's
Yes,
actually a war
yes.
going on,
Exactly,
and it's going to end
exactly.
up wiping them all out. It's
Right,
going to wipe them all out.
right. Exactly. It's coming. Exactly. But it's not just that he's a strategist in a martial arts sense. He's a strategist in terms of his demeanor, his cueing, his mindset, his attitude, and psychology. He's a master psychologist. This warrior, right?
Yeah,
All right.
it's the art of manipulation, isn't it?
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's why it's such a nice counterpoint to the earlier story. He
Yeah.
is very much manipulating over here. Absolutely right.
Every situation you get yourself into, you have to manipulate the situation. Even if you want to be positive and think positively, you have to manipulate the situation into being positive.
Exactly, and
You do
that's
it all the time. It's just it gets that so watered down and very definitive.
exactly,
Oh, this is what a manipulator is. Not necessarily. There's
yeah,
positive and negative.
exactly, and that's why in the Biella story, it was all about ethical strategy, right? Or
Exactly.
strategic ethics. They have to go together. Very powerful. All right. So,
Exactly.
in this case, his ethics, they aren't a concern here. He's because of the nature of the situation. He kind of he can do pretty much anything because hey, we're being attacked. I didn't ask you to attack me. You're the guys that are. So you fair game for any shit now, right? It's
Yeah.
very powerful. All right. So I'll just start here from the boy again.
Yeah.
He wants the blood all over him. He wants to add as many contradictions as possible. They will think him a fool, but the scary appearance adds internal conflict. He adds, a warrior is diminished by uncertainty. The axeman falls to his knees, the warrior reaching towards him, seemingly surprised at the fact of his attack. Like he has practiced the attack, but has never actually used it in battle. He is selling them on the belief that he is a practice ground hero, the boy notes. Such warriors were known everywhere. For various reasons, some warriors had perfected their skills on the training ground, but never in actual battle. Often they would leap at the chance to prove themselves in battle, many times with disastrous consequences, as they failed to make the shift of mindset needed for actual battle. By failing to adjust to the small differences, they often, on instinct, withheld a killing blow on an enemy, having developed the habit from too many years on the practice ground. It is all starting to make sense to them now, the boy says, maturing with the understanding. Now they will play with him. He smiles faintly at this. The next fighter is already moving in, not giving the warrior time to adjust. Dual knives this time. The warrior draws his short sword, which could also be a very long knife. But before anyone objects, he says, still shorter than the two of his combined, which no one has a quick enough retort before the white fighter closes, circling. The warrior has removed his two long swords for the fight and has stuck them in their scabbards into the soft sand, standing them up. The warrior jumps forward to meet the fighter, cutting him off, trying to create distance from his sword so they wouldn't get in the way. But he overshoots his leap somewhat and comes perilously close to being stabbed in the face. The warrior scrambles back in disarray, trying to correct his error, retreating backwards, arms flailing a bit as his backward jerk has unbalanced him over backwards slightly. His non-knife hand falls into one of the swords and closes on it as if by reflex. The fighter leaps at him now, taking advantage of his lack of balance. The hand with the sword in it comes up, bringing sword and scabbard with it, right in the path of the leaping fighter. The blunt end of the scabbard catching him square on the nose, breaking it in a nice gush of blood and stunning the fighter. The warrior immediately drops to a crouch and slices open the fighter's abdomen, the guts spilling out. The warrior jumps back in seeming disgust. Hey, one of the veterans object. You're supposed to fight with the same weapons. I said I would kill you with your own weapons, which I did, the warrior replies with a smile. Now he's one of them, the boy applauds. It makes sense to them now. This fool was here to come for a job as a bodyguard, and under all that bluster, supposed pride and integrity, he was just like them in the end. No honor. That's what they are thinking. The boy is enjoying the skill of the warrior.
Yes. Now they believe that he thinks like them.
The old man adds, and they will underestimate his skill, the boy says. The warrior's next opponent is a knight from one of the far west lands, out of place here. He has a long two-handed broadsword. He swings it in wide, long strokes.
Oh, the broadsword.
Say again?
Oh, the broadsword.
Oh yeah,
My favorite weapon.
oh yeah.
I have two favorite weapons. One's the broadsword and the other's the bastard sword.
All right, okay. And well, you'll see now. Be careful, the boy says to himself. He has noted the disguise in those strokes. The warrior has unsheathed one of his long swords and is holding it in a two-handed grip, matching the knight. Some of the veterans smirk. One says, the fool wants to match styles and weapons, to the fellow next to him. Arrogant prick. I almost hope that fool knight loses so I can kill him myself. The knight
no.
Exactly.
I know what's going on. The knight has picked up on the subtle hints and the subtlety.
Exactly.
And he's mimicking it. He's
yes.
mimicking it. Thinking that's the secret.
Yes.
It's going to be a good fight.
Yes. The knight takes a swing at the warrior. A long diagonal stroke starting high. The blade misses as the warrior steps aside. As the point of the longsword comes to about the warrior's waist height, the warrior uses the momentum to loop the tip around in a deft crossed hand maneuver, and the point now rapidly comes back at the warrior. The warrior has started a counterattack as soon as the point has passed him, and is now moving in towards the knight. On seeing the long blade rapidly reversing, the warrior leaps forward in alarm, blocking with his own blade. But he's in too deep.
I know exactly what should happen next.
Brilliant. Well, let's see.
A sword. This is actually a quote I got from somewhere. A sword in one hand is a deadly weapon, but when you use a two-handed grip sword makes the weapon even more deadly.
Oh, yeah, because you get all that leverage and counter leverage. Most people don't understand with a two-handed sword. I don't have a nice one to represent here, but they will typically grab it with their hands together like this. But if you really see with the two-handed sword, if you really pay attention to it and the way they are designed, the one hand grips very much at the bottom on the pommel and the other one right up against the crossguard, so that you get that leverage. And that leverage gives you much more extra force and power. And the other thing they don't understand with broadswords is that all the power is in the tip of the sword. not in the
Yeah.
edge. A broadsword, you don't
It's
use the
like you
edge;
have
it's all in the
one,
tip, right?
and
I used to do this with the cardboard boxes. I would just take
I
I would
have an axe on my door.
all right. I would
Like,
just put a we got in big sword boxes in the store, when we sold
yeah.
all the swords, and they were nice big tall boxes. So I would just store, and it was kind of like a short person because they were almost 5 foot tall, those boxes.
If
Uh,
you see an historical replicant of a Viking broadsword, they
oh,
actually
sure.
have the ability to have two hands and one hand.
Correct.
And
Correct.
the thing that I was watching was Bleach, so it was katanas.
Right.
And there was this fight that was going on, and the guy, one of the characters, says to another character, a sword in one, because basically it's a massive fight, and one of the characters is losing in the fight, and he's like a good guy. And while they're fighting, he basically widens his legs, gets into a pose, and grabs his katana with two hands.
Right.
It's not with two hands.
Right.
And one of the characters is like, "What is he doing?" He's like, "A sword in one hand is a deadly weapon, but a sword in two hands is sure of itself."
Oh
So,
yeah, it's very powerful. Very powerful. Oh yeah.
and it's like, well, what do you mean? It's like most people don't realize is when you have a sword in one hand, your arm will get tired more easily because you're swinging it around.
Right.
And those types of swords, a zanbakuto is what they call the katana,
Right.
and it's basically when you swing it around in one hand, it's deadly and you can use it swiftly.
Yes.
But when you grab it with two hands, you get more control over
Correct.
the sword,
Exactly.
and you can
That's
do
what's happening
lunging
right here now.
attacks.
Exactly. That's
Exactly.
exactly what's happening right here now.
That's what I think should be in the quote there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, anyway, you'll see there's more coming, so it's very cool. I wanted to just say real quick about the blades. So I would put those boxes up, right, and I would just take a rapier, and because a rapier is all about the point. People don't realize that I actually have one here. I could show you in a second. And then I would just take that rapier and I would just do this with it. I would just kind of drop it like that into the box. That's all. Just no force. Just drop it, and it would just split that cardboard right open. And I said, hey, you know what? That cardboard's actually a bit tougher than your skin. So imagine what this does to you. And that's it. I'm just dropping it. I'm not even using any force. And then so you can get the idea why a rapier is called a rapier. So hold on one
I did
second.
it with
I want to go get the rapier. Hang on.
It's fine.
Oh, you can talk, right?
Okay. I actually had a katana when I was younger. When you first discover all this cool stuff and you want them on your walls and stuff, display them. I had this katana, and I basically was reading about the katana because I was really interested in it at this time, and I basically found the samurai's method of the quick draw. And for people who don't know, the samurai method of the quick draw is the ability to be able to sheathe and unsheathe your sword at a very, very fast-paced one-handed movement, so that without cutting yourself or without basically looking at what you're doing, you can keep your
Wow.
eyes focused on your enemy.
Yeah,
And
it's a particular skill and it's a particular sword style, and the
yeah,
idea of it is to actually kill and all in one
one movement,
one go,
which
right?
is why a samurai will always grip the hilt. They'll keep their eyes on you, but they'll grab the grip of the sword and hold the
Right.
the scabbard,
Right.
and then do it in one quick movement so that
Right.
they can,
Right. Now, a lot of people don't know this about rapiers. You see, they just see a rapier and they see a sword and they think this. But if you actually pay attention to this fancy handle here, there's a reason for it. And it's this and that thumb on top of the blade right there. Because if you hold a sword like this, yes, you've got some flexibility and leverage and movement. But when you do this, that thumb now gives you this powerful strike ability that you can really put force into that tip, and you can slice and cut somebody open with that tip. It's all in the tip. You actually don't want this edge sharp. A lot of people think they do, but a sharp sword, if you take something like, okay, let's assume this is our shield here now, right? And if you do this with a sharp sword, it will cut into that shield and get stuck, whereas a blunt sword won't. It will transfer the force and knock the shield down. So typically broadswords and stuff like this, well, a rapier, you wouldn't typically be fighting against shields anyway.
But you know what? You
It
should
was
be
it's a
supposed
weapon
to.
that's sorry, just 1 second, Rachel. On this,
It's
the,
fine.
a lot of people don't know with the rapiers that there are weapons that are in the post-armor era. So it's a very different weapon. Rapiers are one of the most ridiculous weapons, but not necessarily against heavy armor. So there's a
When
very
you see somebody fighting, sorry,
that's okay.
when you see somebody fighting with a rapier in particular, they will always have one hand on their hip.
Right. Well, it's just for balance
And
necessarily. But it depends, you know. Sometimes they
yeah,
would
but
have the. It depends, though. You know what they would have with the rapier too is so you've got your sword in one hand, then you'd have the main gauss, which they call it. It's just basically a long dagger essentially, and you use the rapier for positioning. And if they get inside, because it's a long weapon, but if they get inside you, then you use the main gauss. So they will use
no,
that two-handed style a lot too. I just want to say one other thing that people don't realize about the rapier. So if you look at this rapier, it's I don't know what is this, you know, 3 4 feet, 4 feet long, something like that. And if I extend my arm out and I'm just standing, the camera won't show me how this is doing. But essentially, you know, if I'm standing over here and somebody's in the kind of outside attack range, just outside a comfortable range from me, if I'm holding the sword out in front of me, right, the rapier, that would put somebody, let's see, about almost 20 feet, 25 feet away from me, where they would think they would feel safe, right? But it takes one lunge, you know, a jump lunge, and you
yeah,
extend forward and when down on the kind of half knee like that, and you extend the sword, and you've got him. And they don't realize before they can scramble backwards, you've lunged and you have that extra extension, and there you go. And you know, you just bring that tip down, split them open. That's it. Game over.
but a lot of people also don't realize that when you fight with a rapier, you're not supposed to hold it firmly in your grip.
Well, I don't know about that, but you know, it depends on
No,
you
you're
and
not.
your own grip. But
What you're supposed to do is when you grip it, you're supposed to hold it lightly in your hand so that basically it has more movement. So when you like,
interesting.
because when you fight with one, like I was saying before, you have one hand on your hip, you stand slightly off to the side, and you always have it pointed towards your enemy. And you will, if someone attacks you with one and they do that lunge, you step to the side and then you wrap the blade around it and do a circle motion, and then it gets stuck in the grip. You see, like the grip of the the guard of the sword. If you can get another rapier in that and do a circle motion, you can actually
Oh
like
yeah. Oh,
out their
that's
hands.
if you. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was just talking about in terms of attacking people
Yeah.
who aren't necessarily from.
I actually watched Deadliest Warrior where it was a Viking versus I think it was a pirate who had one,
Right, right,
and he had
right.
because they have like a double-handed axe,
Yeah.
and when basically Vikings don't wear armor, they don't believe in armor. They wear light leathers, and a shield maiden would wear a dress because they actually want to die in combat.
Interesting. Interesting.
And a Viking won't think twice about letting themselves get caught up so they can figure out a fight style.
Yeah.
And if you actually look at the curve of a Viking axe, you can actually get other weapons stuck on that, bring it up, and then rip it out their hand.
Right. Yeah,
So
that
you can rip
Deadliest
it.
Warrior was an interesting show, but they also, you know, they didn't quite always kind of
Oh
get.
my God, it's the Aragons.
Yeah, no, it's not Aragon Sword. This is a version of Excalibur.
Oh,
We did have
tell me
Aragon
about
Sword. These are just a few pieces that get left over from the store, not many. I just wanted to illustrate this is a hand and a half sword, not really a full broadsword. It's 2 hand and a half. But I wanted to make the point too that these round pommels, this is actually a bit of a oddity here. This will be filed off because many broadswords were used as thrusting swords. So you step in and stab with the
Yeah,
sword. And a lot of people don't realize that. That's when you were talking about the warrior, the Viking sword being also for 2 handed, it's for that. But of course, the warrior sword is made to be used with a shield, which is you come up close. Now, if I have this sword and somebody comes at me with a shield, right? What happens in actual battle? You end up getting squashed like this. And here you're standing with your shield. This is the guy's shield right here, squishing my shield against my sword against me. I can't do bugger all with the sword, right? And you just basically screwed. So the guy with the short sword that can stab, this is what the Romans used. I mean, a Roman gladius is about this long. You know, I don't know if you can see. Here we go. You know, a Roman gladius is less than half the length of the sword because they
Yeah.
would just stab in between the shields because they crush everybody up again. Those big, long broadswords of theirs became utterly useless. Very effective technique
It's
and
actually why the shield was it's why a gladiator's sword or if a Greek or a Roman's shield, you actually look at it, it's from the ground upwards because it's
correct,
actually made close
correct,
quarters so you can
right.
huggle people in and pick
Right.
them off.
And also, the average Roman soldier was only 5 feet tall. People don't realize this. They were much smaller back then. So when you look at a Roman shield, the typical one, it's almost full size. You know, it's a big thing. Yeah, it's really
You've
huge.
seen Britannia?
I'm not sure. Maybe I've seen a lot of stuff like that. So I don't know. You know, I just
No,
know the stuff from
Britannia
yeah.
is actually a historical film, TV
Ah, right.
show. It's on the BBC. It's on BBC iPlayer if you can get on that.
Okay.
And
Right.
basically, what it's about when the Romans actually came into England for the first time and conquered us
Yeah. Yeah.
and introduced Christianity.
Right.
And when you see pre-Christian medieval Iron Age Britain, you'll actually see like the original gods and goddesses that we had, Druidism, witchcraft,
Interesting.
all that shebang. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's all sorts of fun stuff out there. Anyway, I just
And
wanted to
you
show
can
the
actually
sword
see
to
it with the
give
way
you a
that
little
they
bit
fight
of a representation of the idea, you know, what's going on here. Just I don't
and
know.
picture,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a
So I
picture
have
there.
a couple of them around. I should have, but anyway, you know, medieval, or at least not medieval, European weaponry is different to Japanese because it's reliant on the tip only and brute force trauma, not so much slicing and cutting, because they didn't have the ability, the technique, the metallurgy to make a sword that is like this sword. If I show you here, you know, it can bend real nice. You know, I mean, I
Yeah,
can
but then
bend
it can
it
also
more, but
snap.
right, and it won't snap, right? And that's because in order to have flexibility, toughness, in other words, you can't make it too hard. The harder you make it, the sharper it can be, but of course, it makes it more brittle as well. But the Japanese perfected the technique of making it both tough and sharp because of that whole process that they do,
Do
which
you
is
actually know
another day.
this? There's actually a story about how the katana was created, the very first
Oh,
katana.
well, yeah, it's not. It wasn't actually a katana. It was a straight blade. Amaterasu, you're talking about?
No,
Yeah.
no.
Oh.
There was this is a historical fact in Japanese culture. That there was at one point in time there was a blacksmith who was approached by the emperor, and the emperor said to him, "I want you to craft me a weapon unlike any other weapon I've ever seen before."
Ah.
So he's like, "Well, what do you mean? I don't want it like any conventional weapon that we have now. I want something that's unique, something that's deadly, something that you can mass produce and show to our blacksmiths so we can give them to our armies to help us conquer other people." So this guy basically went off and meditated for a little while, and a meteor fell from the sky, and he went and investigated it and took it as a sign from the gods to basically, this is going to be the metal for your new sword. And he basically sat down with a piece of this meteor in his lap, and he meditated on it, and then the very first katana image schematic just was unraveled before him, and he had this massive spiritual experience where he was taught how to create it by one of the gods.
Interesting.
And
Interesting.
he did it. And when he did it with his heart and his soul, and he poured his emotions and his imagery into the sword.
Nice.
And when it came out as the very first curved katana.
Right. Yeah.
And
I love stories like that, and I love. They always say, "Oh, yeah, it's a fact," etc., etc. But you know, many legends are okay. They're facts after the fact.
it's a it's I can't really say whether or not it's a definite fact because I wasn't there at the time,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it comes from an ancient Japanese scroll that
Right.
was written
Right.
by somebody who basically it was the memoirs of this blacksmith,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean. So the guy
Interesting.
existed, but
Interesting.
whether or not
Yeah.
it was actually taught by the gods or whatever, I can't really say. I wasn't there.
Yeah. That's interesting. You know, I'm just a little bit more pragmatic and I look things a little different way. And when you understand the deepness of things, sometimes things make sense in a bigger context. Now, if you look at the metallurgy, the Japanese have very little iron ore and it tends to be of a very poor quality, right? Compared to European iron ore, you know, like Toledo steel and
Yeah,
what's the place in England? Forget now. It's famous steel town. Anyway, um, the steel is very high quality, and there's an abundance of it in Europe. So they can make full plate armor. The Japanese couldn't do that. But also, when you have low grade iron, the way the Japanese have, in order to make it into anything of any strength or worth, and it's little bits, and they kind of really crappy. You essentially have to do pattern welding. You have to take the little bits of steel and fuse them together. And when you do that, and you get pattern welded steel, which is the basics of Damascus steel, which is layered steel, but it's the same process. When you start fusing it together, you get a stronger steel. And in this thing, when you start to look at this as from a metallurgical pattern, you start to see the origin of how, when you, oh, hey, this is actually giving us a much better quality steel than just using the little bits of steel in themselves. And then you start to go from there. And then also, because the way they made the fires, they use the straw and the heat in it. They got a lot of carbon in it, so you get a carbon steel. Because if you don't add carbon to iron, you just have iron, which is very crappy. What makes for that flexibility is carbon inside the iron. So then you get carbon steel. That's what steel is. Steel is iron plus carbon. But it wasn't always known, and it was a big secret all over. And then Damascus steel was all in, like in Europe, was a big secret. And this layered steel or folded steel is a big secret that was reinvented and forgotten and reinvented many, many times. It's quite amazing. At any rate, so with the Japanese, because you don't have the armor, the steel to make armor, right? You can't afford it. It's just prohibitively expensive to make a full suit of armor. You can do the helmet and the breastplate. That's about it. When you look at samurai
They did
armor,
iron wraps
right?
as well.
Say again?
They did iron wraps as well. Iron wraps.
Yeah, I'm saying they're using very little steel in their armor, right?
Yeah, what I'm
Right.
saying is they had this thing called an iron wrap, which they used for the lining for armor.
Right, but
So
still,
it's basically a small
yeah,
sheet of iron.
it's armor that's not. They weren't able to make full plate armor the way the Europeans could.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
now, you'll see the logic of where I'm going now. How the katana comes to be, because you don't have the ability to have plate armor, and with plate armor, you can't cut at it like I explained earlier. That same logic of the sword cutting into a shield. Same thing happens with steel armor. If it cuts in, it can get stuck. So in the Europeans, they saw the power is in the tip, and that's it, either thrusting or that slice. This is where you get the most force per square inch, pressure per square inch when you use a big long broadsword. It's all in the tip. People don't realize that. You'll see the movies, they get this all wrong. But when you don't have plate armor, now you can use actual slicing. And this is very different, and this is something that most people don't realize when it comes to knives in general. If you want to cut something and you do this, that's a chop, right? When you go just perpendicular to it like this, that's a very ineffective way of slicing. Like if I literally wanted to do this. Now, if you simply just angle the blade, then it will go through. Like you can do it with paper and a knife. You can try that. Just hold it straight and it doesn't go as easy. Angle the knife and it does. Because when you angle the knife, you are now slicing. And a slice on a sharp edge, it's a much more effective use of the edge than a chop. Okay, so now when you don't have plate armor and you are able to cut through the layers of leather and stuff like that, now you develop a fighting style that's based on cutting, not chopping, and not tip based, right? A very different style of weaponry. Now we come to why the katana is curved. It's for a very particular reason. All right.
Yeah,
So
it's just more aerodynamic.
no, not the aerodynamic. Well, maybe, but that's not
No,
the
no, it is aerodynamic. It's curved, so it could be more aerodynamic, allowing for more slashing power rather than stabbing power.
right. I'll explain why in a second. So when you do this with a sword and you want to slice and pull the blade, along what you are doing. If you actually do this, I don't have enough space to demonstrate here nicely. But if I slice like something standing here, right, and I'm slicing it like this, and I'm pulling my arms, what actually happens to the tip of the sword, right? That tip is following an arc behind the slice, but it's moving across. So if you have a straight sword, that tip momentum and pressure, it pulls the sword deeper into your cut. right? So it makes it very difficult to control. But if the sword is curved now, that tip of the sword is then actually going to follow the path of my hands, because of course my hands are moving in an arc as well, right? So now you don't have the sword being overbalanced with the momentum, in other words, pushing it or pulling it into the cut, which will make it get stuck. No, as you're cutting and slicing now, the tip follows the path of your hands, and you get a more efficient and more effective cut. I mean, you can try this with you slicing bamboo or everything. You try chop it like a 2-liter bottle filled with water. We did it with the katanas. You just chop at it, it sends the bottle flying. But if you slice through it like that, it slices it. You can just go like this. I just cut them right like that. That's all I did, just like that. Just that little.
Yeah, I used to do it as well.
But the key is, you try and do that with a straight sword that is sharpened to the same degree as a katana. It doesn't work, because that tip pulls it into the bottle and it sends the bottle flying. It won't leave the bottom half standing there. You just slice the top off. Doesn't work. So that's the logic for the katana. It's so that your tip doesn't be overbalanced and pull itself into the cut, and it follows the path of your hands. There's a very specific practical reason for that curve. Very, very interesting when you actually use
Listen
it.
to us having a nerdgasm over swords.
Yeah, but
It's
anyway,
just
it's
from reading a story about a knight.
but that's why I wanted to share this with you, because it's a fun thing to get into detail.
Is
Like,
that place you were talking about, by the way, the English iron thing? Was it called Iron Bridge, which is
no,
located
no,
in Telford,
no,
Staffordshire,
no.
England?
It's like Toledo in Spain. It's Solingen in Germany, and the English place where the English steel comes from. It'll come to me. You see it on cutlery. Often you'll see it printed there. In like Solingen is stamped onto many blades, and Toledo used to be, not so much anymore. Um, if you Google British Steel, it'll come right up. It's a town.
Google what?
Say again.
Google what?
If you Google British Steel, it'll come up.
Okay.
It's a town. Or a city in England. It's like Toledo. It's the steel city in Spain. Same in America. Actually, it's where the iron mines are. So where the steel mills and stuff came to be.
British Steel Limited.
I think it starts
I
with an
found,
E or an I. Say again.
I found British Steel Limited.
Where are they based?
I just load up the website.
Ah. Oh, I just if you
Construction sites, steel standards, shipping. Where's contact? Where's information about?
wow, I can't believe I can't
Who are
remember
we?
this.
British Steel, winning Global Capital Products.
British Steel City. If you type that,
Targa. Is it Targa Steel?
no.
It's the world leading production of long steel production facilities across the UK.
That sounds like a company. It sounds like a company, not the name. Like Solingen Steel. Solingen is just a name of a town in Germany or a city in Germany where the steel originates, and they just made it into a brand, really. But there was an English town that's similar to that, that's famous for this.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out where they were, but it's just.
When you
Oh, wait, here we
hear the
go.
name, say again.
Brig Road in Lincolnshire. Is it Lincolnshire?
No, it's definitely a town name, not a county. Hey, where did my
North Lincolnshire.
it's not such a thing anymore now. It used to be a bit more of a thing, yeah, I don't know. Even when we were in the store already at Sheffield Steel. There you go.
Sheffield.
Yeah, Sheffield Steel.
I've been Sheffield.
Right. So Sheffield Steel used to be the big thing. Sheffield Steel was kind of like Toledo Steel or Solingen Steel. It was famous for all this, stuff. All right, there you go.
I need a toilet break and be back in a minute.
All right, no problem. Yeah, then we'll continue.
Yeah. Instead of having a nerdgasm over swords.
Yeah, it's all good.
It's gonna happen a lot,
Yeah, it's all fun. Yeah. Hmm. Oh, cool, sure. We're just on a bathroom break here, so. We're just on a bathroom break here, in case anyone's listening. This is just me and Rachel having fun. It's just a cool story, and I thought I'd share it, In case anybody's into, silly stuff, just have fun. Hmm. There's a bit more to the story. It's not all about the nerd stuff, so there's a bit more. It's just fun to go into that discernment. Oh. Hmm. Wow, what's your Oh, wow, sure.
I got a really lovely surprise.
Ah, what's that?
Ice cream.
Ah, brilliant. Brilliant.
Mum got me some ice cream.
Wow, good on you, Mom. Good on you, Mom. Good on you, Mom. Brilliant.
Ben and Jerry's as well.
And what as well?
It's Ben and Jerry's.
Ah, Ben and Jerry's. All right, cool.
Chocolate Crush Brownie, my favourite.
All right, I'm going to continue while you eat your ice cream. I'm going to continue with
I don't have it
the
on
night
me.
fight.
I just been told I got it. I haven't got it with me.
Well, you haven't got what with you?
I'm not eating the ice cream.
Oh, I see. Ah, okay. All right.
I've just been told I have some, and I was like,
Yeah, yeah. And I was gonna say, yes, I enjoy the technical stuff and the nerd side of it, but of course, the story is about a bit more than just that side of things.
the side and how to
There's more to it.
conduct war.
But I do enjoy discernment just in itself. So
Yeah.
for me, when I was going into the details of the sword, it's about discernment. When we kind of look at it a little deeper, we can come to understand things, by figuring them out through the use of discernment itself, and that's where the joy for me lies. So it happens to apply to swords, but it applies to anything, of course. So very, very.
Obviously, of course. I have this actual problem. I'm going to need to be prompted because every single time someone reads a story to me, I see the images in my mind and I get lost in that.
Nah, no worries, no worries. So you'll be doing just fine. So not a worry. You're fine. So no problem. And
Just
another,
that's why I go a bit quiet
yeah,
sometimes.
you're doing fine. It's all good. All right. So here we go. Let's continue with the knight and the warrior fighting. The knight takes a swing at the warrior, a long diagonal stroke starting high. The blow misses as the warrior steps aside. As the point of the longsword comes to about the warrior's waist height, the knight uses the momentum to loop the tip around in a deft cross-hand maneuver, and the point now rapidly comes back at the warrior. The warrior has started a counterattack as soon as the point has passed him, and is now moving in towards the knight. On seeing the long tip rapidly reversing, the warrior leaps forward in alarm, blocking with his own blade. But he's in too deep,
Describe.
the old man says. He's more or less in the middle of the long blade. He's away from the point, which is the dangerous part of a long sword such as this. In order to be tough, these long blades cannot be tempered to be too hard. That would make them too brittle, and as a result cannot hold much of an edge. An experienced knight such as this would not actually sharpen the blade. It is an edge it is too easy to get the big sword stuck in a shield or armor that way. It would cut in too deep. It's a dulled edge, just right for transferring the force in the blade and knocking an opponent down. Opponents in heavy plate armor like the knights are extremely vulnerable once on the ground. The warrior catches the blow on the back of his long, slightly curved sword, riding the blow, but the force is too great. He is knocked flying. But rather than come to an undignified landing, uh, the warrior somehow manages to do a roll, even in his armor. There is a gasp of appreciation at this. The knight, even in full plate armor, could also do this, but the conditions had to be just right. The warrior had seemed to roll with much less effort than normal. They don't know about his armor, the boy grins. They have seen laminated armor from leather, but that is always augmented with steel for the breastplate and helmet and other vulnerable parts. They assume the same for him, but they don't know how we make armor. They can't know we take layers and layers of linen and compress them into that special resin glue of yours. The boy is appreciating their special advantage. The armor is lighter than the laminated leather and withstands cuts better than steel, and the layers make it flexible.
Pay attention.
The old man nods to the fight.
The knight is no fool.
Ah, indeed, the knight has taken the unusual role in stride. It has not stopped him from his counterattack. The warrior has scarcely rolled to his feet when the knight lunges, thrusting the long sword, one of its most devastating attacks. The warrior swings his sword to block, but instead of reversing the blade to block with the back, as was typical, so as not to chip or dull the fine edge, the warrior swings at the large swords with the edge. It is a stroke, not a block. The blade of the warrior's sword slashing towards the knight's shoulder, but then looping down and across and back towards the warrior. His blade connects with the longsword right at the mass point of the long blade and bites into the relatively softer metal just a bit. It is enough. The blow has deflected the tip past the warrior, but he continues the stroke back towards himself, using the sword's hook into the knight's sword, effectively extending the knight's momentum even more in towards him, overextending the knight. The warrior is pulling the knight in towards him. The knight either has to let go of his sword or continue forward to be able to regain his balance. The warrior has no time to reverse his blade, but instead reverses his grip on the handle, first the one and then the other in rapid succession, and rams the hilt of his sword into the bottom point of the knight's visor. The force of the head snapping back and his mass still moving forward whips the knight flat onto his back. The warrior, still with the reverse grip, spins around, crossing his sword back to the right, to the side the knight is on, and steps backward into a crouch, thrusting savagely back and down, the long blade finding the vulnerable spot in the knight's groin. The warrior takes another backward step and thrusts the blade almost all the way in, far enough to find the heart. He reverses himself and, bracing his foot in an undignified way on the knight's groin, he retrieves his blade. No small feat, as it has gone in so deep.
Was that necessary?
The old man asks. No and yes, the boy elaborates. If his only goal was to kill, then no. But it is a disrespectful way to finish his foe, and the warrior knows it. He is stirring them. The boy smiles a hard smile, quoting, "A warrior has to be able to do the ruthless, but never succumbs to cruelty or brutality." The warrior steps away from the slain knight with a disparaging glance. The remaining guards howl in outrage, incensed. They won't hesitate to do anything similar or worse, the boy observes. They are outraged because it is the way their deceitful minds work. The warrior makes short work of the spearman he faces next, again blocking a thrust with his blade side. This time he is moving forward to catch the thick wooden shaft right at the start of the blade, near his hand guard, stepping through and across the shaft, all the while drawing the entire length of the blade across the spear shaft. It is again a cut, not a block. The warrior is maximizing the cutting power of the blade, which is along its edge, not across it. He is not able to cut all the way through and does not try to do so. The cut only has to be deep enough. He slices and spins away in one fluid movement. The spearman comes at him again, a bit more warily now, more of a feint to try to position the warrior for a better strike, but still forcing the warrior to block. This time the warrior does use the back of his blade, but instead of a block, he turns it into a strike with the back of his blade, right on the back side of the cut in the shaft he has made. The shaft is too weak now at that point, and the shaft shatters. The warrior uses the broken tip he has caught in his offhand to dispatch the now unarmed spearman. He steps back to his second sword, still standing in the sand, and reattaches it to his waist. He took out the spearman almost too easily. He wants them to think he is getting cocky. They are already infuriated from the night. This will add to them losing themselves, losing their centers, the boy observes. The old man nods, his eyes on the chief fighter, the one who's itching to get his chance at the warrior. He nods towards this fighter, inviting comment from the boy. He needs to fight him now. He is the most dangerous of all the fighters and a true match for the warrior. Also, defeating him now will escalate the outrage and things will probably fall apart somewhat. He needs to get this fighter to engage him now, not waiting for the emperor to send him in. This breach of discipline will open a door for things to break apart somewhat and force the emperor to call in the giants to restore order before it gets out of hand. The boy pauses to consider. He wants to draw the giants in, he exclaims. But why? He is puzzled. I will just have to wait and see. The boy is acknowledging his limitations and opening himself up to learn. There is advanced strategy at play, and I do not want to be preoccupied with trying to figure it out and thus fail to see what needs seeing. The old man nods and smiles approvingly. This boy was an excellent student. The warrior allows disdain and even disgust to fill in. The spearman was a gift, the boy notes. The warrior knows that if one is impeccable, regardless of the odds, then luck often has a way of making herself known when needed. In most groups, such as the guards, there is always one that rose to his status with little skill and lots of luck. The spearman is one such, and one whose luck has just run out. It is an extremely lucky break for the warrior to have faced him at this stage of the escalating fights. It will allow him to skip some fights. His disdain and disgust for the spearman are valid. He is using his luck to the utmost. The warrior shows the disdain on his face, his posture, and his walk. He raises the tip of his still drawn sword. Slowly, he uses it as a pointing device, moving it across the remaining guards. He is forcing the selection and unnecessary observation from the boy. He is engrossed, but still mindful of his task. The warrior flicks the tip disparagingly in dismissal as he moves it across the remaining guards. He skips some, those not even in consideration. He slows down as he comes to his intended opponent, who is standing with two others. The boy explains. These are the top three, but they know who is best amongst them. His target has true skill and talent. The number two has skill, but is not gifted. He has acquired his skill through hard work. Number three has talent, but skill. Number three has talent and skill, but is lazy, and has the great fortune to look good. He was always the crowd favorite. He has a knack of looking good, making the crowds believe he is better than he is. This annoys the other two very much. The old man adds nothing. The analysis is thorough. The warrior moves the tip across the three as if deciding who is the best of them. He has added an arrogance to his demeanor now. The boy continues. He is showing only the best will do now. He wants a real challenge and he believes he will win. He is being cocky now, typical in lesser warriors who are managed by their self importance rather than reality, especially after an easy victory. The warrior's gaze is filled with scorn as his sword tip comes to rest on number two, but eases past for number three. The scorn for the other two still evident. His expression changes slightly again as he fixes his gaze on number three. With a "you'll do" nod to number three, he beckons him to fight. He beckons him with a sword tip. Number one and two now completely dismissed as unworthy. The emperor is laughing, enjoying this. Humiliation delights him, the boy observes, even to those loyal to him. The emperor's cruelty plainly shows in his laugh.
Don't look at it yet.
Right, okay. Oh, it's for later. All right, okay.
So later.
The emperor's cruelty plainly shows in his laugh. The warrior glances at the emperor and then back at number one. He is reflecting the emperor's mocking, using his awareness to number one. The boy says admiringly. He's making his target aware of how the emperor is abusing him. The boy nods to himself, completing the understanding. Number one howls in outrage. This is too much for him. The boy smiles grimly. No sympathy for the god. I go inside my enemy, as you taught me. Speak his thoughts, feel his emotions. The boy speaks now as the god, his face and posture taking on aspects of the god. He hisses. First to be dismissed and insulted by this upstart of a warrior, then to have him choose this glory boy as the best, and now the emperor himself mocking me. It is too much. I will show them. All these emotions clearly playing out across his face as they were on the face of the number one god. The emperor is about to send in Glory Boy to fight next when number one leaps forward. I'll show you his best, he yells, marching determinedly towards the warrior. His years of training prevent him from running, despite his overflowing emotions. The emperor is furious.
The emperor?
The old man prompts. He has enough sense not to countermand the god. He knows enough of men to know once their pride has been assaulted past the point of no return, they will lose all reason. He does not want to compound the problem further. Even if his man wins, he had better win.
Good.
The old man says. Number one is about to draw his sword, but the warrior sheaths his own and adopts a dueling stance. The boy continues describing. Number one has similarities in his style, enough to know and recognize a challenge. The warrior is challenging him to a classic duel that starts with a quick draw. He is adding insult to injury. He is taking the stance that they are equals. Can you even draw that thing? The warrior says disparagingly, a clear insult. Number one checks his anger to his credit and refrains from a retort. We will duel, is all he says, tightly. He has trapped number one into the duel. Number one thinks there is a large skill gap in his favor and he will easily outduel the warrior, clearly showing his superiority. But the warrior nods casually, indicating that this was to him going to be easy, more of a chore than a contest, but something that has to be taken care of before the real fight could take place. He shoots a glance of anticipation at number three, just a tinge of respect added. He sees the fury flood through number one. He is priming the audience, not really number one, the boy realizes. The old man nods.
Why?
He needs them all to be furious, outraged. He needs their emotions at breaking point, and then he will break them and they will lose reason. The old man is pleased.
Very good.
The warrior now starts to get into duel mode. There is always a period beforehand when duelists set themselves. He indicates he is preparing. He moves his sword from his left side to his right, tying it in place. The boy. The warrior has been fighting right-handed mostly, even though he can fight equally well with either hand, as all true warriors can. It has been deliberate to show right-handedness only. To do otherwise would have betrayed his true skill level. And now, putting his sword on his right side is simply confusing, silly, even to his opponent. On top of that, the warrior has angled it almost vertically. They have never seen this. It makes no sense. The boy adds. Number one already thinks him a fool, thus anything orthodox is regarded as idiocy. His peculiar grip aggravates that. The warrior places his hand on the hilt in a most unusual manner. The right hand is placed at the guard in a reverse grip, like this, not like this, in other words, like
Yeah.
this, in a reverse grip, and the left hand on top as if he were holding a pole. They cannot see how he intends to draw his sword like that, let alone quickly. It is beyond them, and they are too arrogant to be able to think there may be sense to it. What they cannot understand must be foolishness. The boy nods to himself, satisfied with himself. Number three starts to laugh. He is the most concerned with image, and the warrior looks foolish in the circumstances. Everyone joins in, jeering, shouting mocking insults at the warrior. But the warrior is oblivious. He is focused on his opponent. He gives an imperceptible nod to indicate the duel has begun and takes a step forward, closing the gap. Number one does the same. Then the warrior takes a half step. He was matched again. They are almost in striking range.
On Jules.
The old man asks. Typically, these duels are contests of will, of patience between skilled opponents who are closely matched. The one who draws first, unless the skill difference is great enough, will usually lose. The one that draws first typically gives away his stroke, and the commitment to it allows an opponent to counter appropriately. It is not the first stroke itself that gives away the advantage. It is the decision. At these levels, reading another is a mastered skill. The draws will appear simultaneous to an onlooker, but they will be headed in different directions once they are out of the scabbards.
Yes.
The old man adds simply.
A warrior pays attention to intent.
The warrior now takes his last quarter step. When number one takes his last matching quarter step, the duel will be on in earnest. The boy is still describing as if to a student of his own. For then they will be in killing range. He is mindful of the old man's instructions. Number one is holding his step, as the warrior knows he will. He does not want to have the pace of the duel dictated by the warrior. Number one is also holding himself to try and force himself to override the fury in him, but it is not abating, even with his training. The warrior is making sure of it. Every single thing he is doing now is directed at fueling that fury. But number one cannot wait too long. He will begin to appear hesitant and thus afraid. The warrior is in charge, as a warrior always is. To those watching, it seems an age that number one waits, when it is not even a minute. The tension is tight, everyone filled with anticipation and expectation. They eagerly await the defeat of the warrior and are keen to see him put in his place. Enough was enough already. Number one has a look of steel to him. There is no signal, no pretensioning, just a simple, small step forward. The instant number one is committed to his step, and before it is completed, the warrior strikes. The warrior pushes his right hand forward, simultaneously pulling his left hand back. His entire sword breaks free from its scabbard, attached midway to the warrior's leg in one complete motion. The warrior's sword has broken free along its entire length, as if the warrior has sliced through his own scabbard. But he has not. It is a specially constructed scabbard where the wood has a gap covered by the typical lacquer. The gap is just small enough to keep the sword in, but big enough to allow the sword through with a bit of pressure. The boy smiles appreciatively at this. The warrior's sword leaps forward with blinding speed. The counter tension the warrior has held on it now released. It moves too fast for anyone to see. All they see is number one being split in two. His light armor, to not impede his speed, is not nearly enough to stop a tremendously powerful stroke such as this. The warrior extends his arms forward and up, drawing the sword along the cut, maximizing his sword's cutting power. The stroke catches number one just above the hip and goes all the way to his neck, splitting his armor, and number one himself, wide open. The tip catches the arteries and veins in the neck. As number one topples slowly backwards, a great spray of blood erupts from him. He is dead before anyone even thought the duel had truly started. Number one's sword is not even drawn. All that fury and hatred exploding, the boy observes. The warrior casually, and not even bothering to be disdainful, flicks the blood from his sword and returns it to his left side. The boy
That's
has
so
a
king.
hard, focused look. So nonchalant is he, as if number one has simply been a nuisance, and this calculated disregard for number one will ignite the shock of his death into outrage for all the watchers. It is a supreme insult to them also, as if killing number one had not been enough, for they have identified with number one. The emperor is beyond livid. This is a direct insult to him also, and the warrior compounds it by shooting the emperor a questioning glance off. Is this the best you have? Combined with a dismissive shake of his head. Emperor can barely speak, his outrage and fury overwhelming them, but he manages to screech in a hideously hateful tone. Giants, kill him, kill him! It is a forceful command to the giants. The soldiers cheer. They are keen to see the warrior humiliated and defeated by the giants now. The warrior leaps into action at this, running at full speed towards the nearest giant, but just slightly at an angle to him. He has both his long swords out now, both held in reverse grips. The warrior is uh, the warrior is making it seem as if he's just fool enough to take on the giants, but also is not entirely committed to doing so. He wants the soldiers to see this as new entertainment. He is vulnerable now. He has whipped them close to losing reason, but he needs them still to watch only. The boy is concerned. The warrior dodges through the first few ranks. The soldiers are not interfering. The soldiers have not been countermanded to attack, and they know the emperor likes to see his giants dispatch troublemakers such as these. The warrior is counting on this, that they will be too interested in watching the sport of the giants chase a man. It is like watching someone chase down a chicken. The boy adds maturely, earning him a glance from the old man. But not all chickens are chickens. As the warrior runs, weaving among the soldiers, he does a rapid thrust with the hilt of his sword right at the soldiers' eyes. They reflexively raise their arms. It is a small movement, exquisitely focused, but enough to get them to react. To their comrades, it appears as if they have overreacted, and there is harsh laughter at this. But as the warrior ducks under their arms, he allows his forward facing blade to draw along the veins at the top of the insides of their arms, a weak point. The warrior is making it look accidental, like the soldier were not so silly to overreact. Sorry, the warrior is making it look accidental, like if the soldier was not so silly to react, he would not have been accidentally cut. He knows also this will not have immediate effect. Indeed, it sometimes takes many seconds before the cuts are noticed. So engrossed are the soldiers in the sport at hand. But the warrior is moving fast through the ranks now. Every second he passes a few ranks, slicing soldiers as he goes. He does not need to move the sword. There is no strike. The speed of his run, drawing the edges across flesh, is enough. As the first soldiers he has cut start to drop, he begins saying, Red is making a move. Sorry, not so loudly. Red is making a move. Not too loudly, and certainly not in the tone of a man running at full speed. That is a difficult thing to do, the boy observed. It required a mastery of breathing, but to the soldiers, it will sound like one of them is saying it. And of course, some will pick up the statement, seeing nothing going on. They will repeat it as a question. Red is making a move. The soldiers start to drop. Other soldiers see their comrades fall. Now the making a move penetrates. The reality starts to penetrate. The soldiers will see their mates fall back themselves under attack. Those who see soldiers of another army fall join in the attack. Chaos starts to follow the warrior as more and more start fighting the man next to them. The old man says,
The fighting of the soldiers will impede the giants, who now also have to deal with the fighting. It is part of their duties to prevent exactly what the warrior is now starting.
the warrior's initial direction has been across the cliffs, left and slightly away, and also away from the Emperor's platform with all its flags and draperies. Beside the giants, it is the only thing visible to the back ranks other than just row upon row of soldiers. To the soldiers near the warrior, there is clearly commotion in the direction of the emperor. They can see the giants chasing someone, but they do not know who. He comes by them so fast that only after he's passed do they make the connection. But by then they can do nothing. The increasing pandemonium is starting to be heard. The warrior continues his run, cutting soldiers as he goes and still spreading the word. Red is making a move. He has chosen red deliberately. They are indeed the most likely to make a move. The old man says, sorry.
I can see you getting more and more involved in it, so I'm
Yeah,
just letting
yeah, I
you
didn't see that at the end there. So, okay, you read that part. Yeah, you read again.
No, it's fine. We just carry
Okay.
on, keep the flow,
Ah.
even if you take over mine, just keep it going
It's
because
okay.
I'm loving the enthusiasm.
Cool. Where is he going? The boy asks, but more to himself. As if the warrior has heard the boy, he starts to loop further away from the cliffs, slowly changing his course. Not too quickly, otherwise he would run back into the chaos he has created, and also so as not to create a shortcut for the still pursuing giants from the front ranks who had heard and obeyed the emperor's command. He glances back at them regularly, monitoring them. His loop has now taken him back past the line the emperor is on, and he starts back towards the emperor and the cliffs the old man and the boy were on. And now it begins, the old man says with his typical understatement. The boy watches intently. The warrior now begins to shout loudly, The giants are attacking us! And the giants are helping Red! Red is the largest army, the old man said, but not nearly larger than the rest combined. And even if all the giants were to help Red, they would still be outnumbered, but not greatly so. Soldiers are never keen to fight on a losing side, but if they think it will be an easy victory, they are eager enough. The warrior adds for good measure, Kill the red giants! Every now and then, he shouts as he runs, spreading the confusion and continually adding to it as he slices and runs, his devastation making his shouts a self-fulfilling prophecy. As he draws closer to the emperor's platform, the fighting and confusion in his wake escalating, the giants now fighting each other, but the first group still chasing him. These now have other giants chasing them. The emperor's remaining guards, the other kings and their retinues, now notice this wall of mayhem moving towards them. They are in a vulnerable position, surrounded now on all sides by uncertain enemies. They will have to move, the boy notes. Retreat to the cliffs, the emperor screams. It is his only tactical option. They move to the gap in the cliffs that leads to the steep, narrow pathway the warrior has come from. The gap is deserted. Only the warrior has ever been seen coming from out of that gap in the cliffs. It is a good place to take a defensive position for the emperor in the current situation. It is the only choice, the boy is still explaining. The boy smiles now. What a maneuver, he praises. I cannot yet see why exactly the emperor is being forced into this position. But along with your comments, I feel certain there is a surprise waiting for him at the cliffs. The emperor's slaves are moving the platform hurriedly towards the cliff gap now, not needing incentive. They are getting close now. The warrior angles slightly, moving now directly towards where the old man and the boy are. But now is he? The boy is about to ask, but the calm demeanor of the old man tells him to simply watch and enjoy. There is a plan. Now, the old man commands. Near them, the ground in the cliff breaks open, revealing camouflage pits holding catapults and ballistae. The command of now being repeated by each catapult crew, spreading it far down the line of catapults along the cliff edge to both sides of them, and on the cliffs across the gap. The catapults fire relatively small, round objects the boy does not recognize. What are those? He explains his confusion to his imaginary student, using the mechanism to help him figure it out. Typically, catapults fire the biggest rocks they can find. The bigger, the better, for they do more damage. But these objects are maybe a few times the size of a man's head, and they are smooth, not rocks. They are made of pottery, the boy yells, his excitement getting the better of him. He's putting it all together instantly, as simultaneously fire arrows streak out after these ceramic balls. They are filled with lamp oil, he's adding to his previous observations. I noticed an increase in lamp oil in the kingdom. The globes explode on impact, splattering the lamp oil far and wide. The fire arrows land immediately after. A huge whoosh erupts as the oil ignites, sending massive fireballs skywards. The catapults have been set to maximum range. A wall of flame leaps up in a huge distant semicircle with the gaps in the cliffs as the center. The great army is effectively cut in half. Those on the far side of the wall of fire retreating from it, the fighting amongst the ranks closer intensifying. The old man explains. You read again. Give my voice a break.
Okay. Where are we? It is much too far outside of the usual catapult range, but the ceramic ball size. Thank you. Ball size has been chosen for maximum distance, much further than the giant's rock could be hurled. The soldier on the far side of the valley can only perceive of these attacks coming from the forces near the Emperor. They do not know how or by whom exactly, but they are clearly being attacked, and the only course of action is to fight whoever is not of their own army.
Even at that distance, the boy could see the fighting spread like a wave through the great army, rippling outward toward the edges of the great army. He knows it will not be enough. Even half of the great army is still a great army, he says. Without a head, even the mightiest dragon is lost, quoting the old man. He turns his attention back to the catapults. Their firing pattern. Only every third catapult is now firing at maximum range. They are adjusting slightly left and right of their initial shot. He only ponders for a split second. They are maintaining the firewall, he says, his tone changed.
Good. Be the commander now.
The old man commands, adding encouragement. He feels pride in his student.
You are maturing and grasping beyond yourself and making it your own by the minute. Direct the battle now.
The old man says, extending his transference of authority to the nearby catapult crews, clearly implying his pride and trust, but it didn't in saying, the implied trust adding to the boy's confidence. Catapult second and third, shorten your range, the boy commands. Bring the wall of flame ever closer. Catapult first, follow range. The flame wall creeps closer. The warrior, he suddenly realizes. Things are happening so quickly he has forgotten about the warrior, although it has not been long in actual time. The warrior is still running directly at them. The great army between the cliffs and the firewall is being squeezed together, rats in a trap. But soon some of them will be too close to the cliffs for the catapults to reach. Crossfire! The boy yells the command. The catapults have only to angle along the cliffs slightly out to land their loads close to the bottom. Minimum range would not be a problem. The old man grins. The boy is graduating.
Situation report, Commander.
The old man orders. The catapults will not get it all, the boy begins. The gap in the cliff is an excellent refuge. The Emperor will be safeguarded. His platform is getting close to the gap now. Switching the catapults to attack, it would leave gaps in the firewall. I cannot let the great army escape. The emperor will have to deal. The emperor will have to be dealt with later.
Can you just stop you there for a minute?
Oh, sure, sure.
Your voice seems to be suffering a little bit. So.
Oh no, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I'm just getting excited. So.
I was just gonna say that I like the story.
Cool. We can continue another time. Yeah, I don't know how much there is.
No, I'm just worried about your throat
Oh
because
no. I'm fine. I'm just getting
I was
excited.
gonna add a side note to give your voice that little break.
No, it's no problem. I'll get some water. Yeah, so no, I'm all good.
Get some green tea because that'll help as well. And if you can't get it with lemon.
Yeah, no, I don't care much for green tea, but water will do just fine. No, I'm actually all right. I'm just getting excited, and it's just the intensity.
I can see why.
Yeah, it's a fun story.
Because when I write stories as well, I get excited as well.
Yeah.
That's what ends with all the typos. Because if you actually notice that all the typos start to really, really pick up.
Yeah.
When it starts to get exciting.
I know.
And just like.
Writing the story is one part of a story, and you got the writing, then you got the editing. All right, so let's go back here and continue. All right.
Okay.
Okay. So where were we? The emperor has to be dealt. Oh,
the commander is always to deal.
Yeah. Yeah. A commander always has to deal with what was imperative in the moment. Solutions for what was not imperative would appear later. It is no use trying to figure out solutions for a future problem when the current situation is changing rapidly. The information will be old by the time the solution is needed, he adds. When he has no choice, a warrior trusts, and his trust is impeccable, and he is impeccable in his trust. The old man nods his appreciation of the analysis, his acceptance high praise.
You cut off for me. Give it time to catch up.
Sorry, I did one? I lost.
You're frozen.
Just give it a moment.
There we go. There we go.
There we go. The old man nods his appreciation of the analysis, his acceptance high praise.
The battlefield has no place for praise, only doing.
He quotes. The boy nods understanding. The warrior. What of the warrior? The old man just smiles at him, gesturing with his eyes to observe the catapult right next to them. This catapult is positioned across a small fissure, perhaps as wide as 2 men. There is a contraption in front of the catapult. It is a hoist, the young man explains, excited, hope for the warrior showing his eyes. But it will be too slow. The giants will get him.
Watch.
The old man gestured again with his eyes. The boy moves to the fissure, looking down to see how the warrior would be saved. The warrior has been weaving somewhat, actually delaying his time on reaching the cliff.
Observation.
The old man orders. He is delaying his arrival. He is timing it. The boy watches as the crew lower a small seat with 2 curved bars meeting above it, where a rope is tied to it. It is just wide enough for a man to sit on and wrap his arm around the bars. He barely has time to take it in, the seat falling rapidly, but there is something attached to the bars holding the seat. It's a bow, he yells. The bow has an arrow already fitted to it, tied lightly in place with flimsy thread. The warrior now turns directly for the seat, using the last of his energy for a final sprint. It is a marvel he's still running, the boy observes to himself. The warrior closes in on the seat. It is raised somewhat. He takes a mighty leap, turning in midair, so he would land sitting into the seat. The second he lands in the seat, wrapping his arms around the bars and grabbing the bow, the catapult fires. It is connected to the hoist. The giants are close, very close, about to grab the warrior, but he's yanked upward instantly by the catapult, out of their grasp. They howl. Simultaneously, the warrior draws the bow and fires, seemingly all in one motion. But the boy had enough skill to slow time down by speeding up his perception. He sees the warrior draw and hold for the briefest of moments, waiting for his target to come in line with his aim. He cannot move the bow much. It is already angled. His upward movement is the aim. He simply has to release at the exact right moment. Oh, the skill, the boy cries as the warrior releases. The arrow seems to fly in slowed motion. He watches it fly, curving slightly downward on its path. Then, with a jerk back to reality, it sees it hit. The emperor's head explodes as the arrow pierces from temple to neck. The warrior
Oh,
has been shouting, "The emperor is dead!" even before he had reached the cliffs. This is now echoed by a great shout from the remaining great army, filling the gap in the cliffs. The warrior is now halfway up, the winches and pulley having taken up the slack rope, holding him there briefly before the catapult crew finishes hoisting him up. "Kill the kings!" the warrior yells. "Kill the kings!" Repeat the shout, repeat the shout, the boy commands the catapult crews. "Random order," he adds, "and cease fire, cease fire." The orders are repeated down the lines, the crews understanding that they are urging the remaining soldiers and giants to kill the kings. "Take your chance at freedom," the boy says, intending it strongly, seeming to will it, and to his imaginary student. These soldiers are mostly the next closest thing to slaves. They may as well be. The mob of remaining soldiers do indeed fall upon the kings, slaughtering them and setting ablaze the platform and pavilion of the emperor, a symbol to the rest of the great army that it is all over now, the boy's intent manifesting. "Go home!" the boy yells, inspired. "Go home! Now is your chance!" The crews take his lead, yelling the same. Sometimes the obvious needs to be spelled out to the confused, the boy finalizes. The warrior is walking towards them, nodding his agreement and approval, and says, "A job well done indeed by all." "Now what?" the boy asks, suddenly at loss. It has all ended so suddenly. "Now we do what is hardest for a warrior to learn and apply," the old man says gravely. The warrior is grinning. "And what is that?" the boy asks, confused. "Be patient." The old man and the warrior break into laughter at the old man's joke and profound double meaning. I'll just let it go there. It's a little epilogue. We'll get to that in a moment. But anyway, there's the story for you. Sorry, I forgot it was ending there. So anyway.
time.
Yeah, yeah. So it just all ends in a study, I've got the visual of it, with all the big fireball going up in my mind. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a movie. So I'm just
yeah.
thinking of it
They,
as
they
a
say
movie. Say again?
that they say that people who read books and have it play out like a story in their mind's eye, rather than just reading words,
Yeah.
are actually incredibly intelligent people.
Oh, well, okay. Thank you.
And
I,
everyone in
I,
my family
I
basically
always,
does
I always
that.
see these as a movie, which is why in the beginning of the story I put it like describing a movie. So
Yeah,
anyway, I like that. I just like the idea that you know, for me, the fun of the story was the impossible becoming kind of plausible.
possible.
So they
Yeah,
use the
I say
strength
it a
of the
million
great
times.
army to turn it against itself and all of this. So
I've
and
said it
the
a million
plausibilities
times.
were the fun. Say again?
I've said it a million times that
Yeah.
I always like the point of Norse mythology. Like Sigmund, look at
Yeah.
Sigmund, the story of Sigmund. He fought an entire village and united the entire continent of Norway just by holding the sword Gram. He
Wow.
made the impossible possible
Yeah.
by, but he used magic. But
Wow.
it's the same situation, isn't it?
Wow. Wow. And I was very lucky to find the pictures, by the way. Oh, it took me
Prince
for
of Persia.
ages and ages and ages to find the picture. Now, okay, our warrior in the story won't have opened this year, but maybe he shed some of his armor while running. But again, with the curved swords in the backhand grip, because that's how you run. You just have to basically run. You don't have to cut. That edge will cut automatically. So it was
Yeah,
very difficult to find.
but you have it out the
Pictures,
side.
pictures did work out pretty well. I enjoy the picture. Here's the young boy on the cliff, commanding the
Yeah,
battle.
that's ESO.
Yeah, say again.
That's ESO. Prince of Persia and
Okay,
ESO.
all right, there you go. Yeah, yeah. Elder Scrolls Online. There's the giant, of course. In the right proportions. It's very difficult to find the giant picture with the proportions. You see, except this one had arrows in him. Arrows were banned. Remember, so the arrows are a little bit inaccurate here.
If you can't find a good giant picture, always look at golems, flesh golems.
Yeah. I did, but this was a while back already, the stories, and I've had it out for a while. So there'll be a lot more pictures now, though. But yeah, here's another nice.
It reminds me of a story I wrote.
Say again?
It reminds me of a story I wrote.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Oh, here's the
Because
knight. The night. We're going to it in a moment. I just want to read that epilogue in a second. I just want to go through the spearman, again the night, and again the night. There are lots of night pictures, of course. This was the knife guy, the hooligan knife guy. So all right, let's go to that.
Which is Prince of Persia.
Say again.
Which is Prince of Persia.
Right, from Prince of Persia, exactly. Hey,
Sands of Time.
yeah. I don't know what happened there. Why I'm going to the next story. Yeah, I didn't want to do that. Just trying to.
Excuse me.
There we go. That's what I was trying to do, but then somehow it took me up. So, okay, yes, because the epilogue's kind of cool because they do the deconstruction of the story. So the epilogue's it's a big deal actually. I really like the epilogue. I like that discernment of it. So
that is a long story.
Say again.
That is a very long story.
Yeah, kind of. It's not really a book-length story. It's more like a novella, really. But anyway, yeah, I like it. So it's a movie. In my mind, it's really a movie. Say again, last thing.
It's because when you have stories that you write play out as movies in your mind.
Why?
You can. I don't know about you, but you can get lost in them. I can get very lost in them. And then I just end up writing all of this stuff.
Right.
Most of it's incoherent anyway.
Right. So I like this epilogue because it gives a bit of backstory, and it takes the whole thing from being kind of movie a little bit more realistic. You'll see now. Okay. So the old man, the warrior, and the boy are still on the cliff top, but the boy is different. The old man and the warrior are watching him. He is within himself, processing and assimilating the day's happening, taking it all in, taking what he has learned today and all of his life, and making it his own, claiming it. The warrior and the old man nod their approval, letting their awareness of what he is doing show. The boy's posture changes. His face resets subtly. It will take time for the totality of what he has claimed to work its way into his face. His stance changes. He is now a young man. Excellent, says the warrior, softly, but no less powerfully, from the old man.
Sorry. Well done.
You have graduated, says the warrior. You have been an excellent student all your life. Today was your graduation. We purposely did not share all we knew of the emperor and the great army with you. Today we wanted to see you put all that you have been taught together. Figure it out for yourself. Construct the necessary awareness as you went along. That is how one knows we are ready. When we can apply the abstract principles of our learnings to ourselves. Apply from the general to the specific. It is the only way. That is how we apply knowledge, how we make it useful, by learning that process of getting from teachings to doings. You did that today. The warrior grins fiercely at the young man, for the boy is now a young man. The warrior is welcoming him into his manhood.
He talks more than I do.
The old man says with a shrug. They all laugh. That shrug is just perfect.
Oh my God, that's funny. There is more.
The old man says in his typical understated way. Yes, indeed. I am sure you have many questions, and I want to hear them all. Your testing is not at an end, the warrior adds.
It will never be.
The old man says with a wry smile. Yes, the young man says. Many. I suspect there is also much critical information I do not know. Good, the warrior says. Let's hear it all, from the beginning. The boy goes into himself. That's all right. The boy goes into himself, reviewing the entire day's events in this new light. He takes his time, knowing the old man and the warrior have patience. But it takes longer than he needs to, gradually increasing his display of thinking, slowly increasing the level of his hamming it until he is rewarded with a mock slap across the head. He has not forgotten the old man's be patient tease. You are indeed learning, the warrior laughs. Maybe too much, his grin wide. The archers, I am assuming that the army does not have them, just as they were far removed. The archers, I am assuming that the army does have them, just that they were far removed from the emperor and were not visible from here. The young man is letting his thoughts come as they go over the day. Yes, replies the warrior. All the archery equipment is packed away until battle day, and they are specifically needed. The inter-army fighting was a constant problem. I take it the mixing of the armies and the interfighting were a balance that was necessary. The giants were the key. Yes? Yes. I am remembering how amazed I was when I first saw you all alone. How incredulous I was that you were all we were sending. But there was a massive flaw to my thinking. I was assuming the great army was invincible, and I was assuming ordinary means were the only means. The young man invites elaboration. Indeed, the warrior has a thoughtful look. The key is never to assume anything, anything other than your goal, that is, no matter how impossible it may seem. Sorry, Rachel, I'm getting a lot of noise from you. No matter how impossible it may seem, always assume it can be done. Then figure out how,
So simple.
says the old man. We practice this, working backwards from the goal. We say, well, what if? The warrior continues. We imagine all the possible ways and look to history for examples. Our goal in this case is broadly stated. We do not want the great army to be a problem for us. This broadness leaves open many solutions, from bribery, tribute, diplomacy, not being noticed, being too small or troublesome to bother with, being too expensive or time consuming to bother with, and so on. Then there is the great army itself. Defeat is not the only thing that kills armies. The warrior pauses to let that sink in. The young man considers. Yes, there is disease, famine, internal strife, politics, many factors. Yes, I see. It is being open to all possible possibilities and not just looking for the immediate solution for the most immediate problem. It is what Master means when he says, don't grab the obvious solution. The young man knows the process, but is working through it now as if he did not. It was useful to be completely open in situations such as this, where new learning is added to old. Yes, the warrior says. Then next comes understanding the problem completely, all aspects of it. In this case, it is an enemy. We first heard of the great army heading this way more than a year ago. Great armies move slowly. We sent many spies to collect information, even many to fight in the great army. Learning to know a problem from the inside is the best way. When combined with that overview and openness to alternative ideas, solutions come readily. We learned of the giants, how they were the bodyguards, and how they were indispensable for keeping the great army together. We learned which of the individuals' army were the most likely to start trouble. To use this to break the great army apart was obvious. Others tried this also, via political means mostly, and with infiltrators, but we saw it would take more. I see, the young man says. Even with causing dissemination and strife, even if the great army did break apart, it did not necessarily mean that it would still not be a great army. The emperor, I assume, didn't start with a great army as we saw it. Yes, the emperor was formidable. He has many skills. He was cunning and strategic and knew how to plan and organize. He would have lost many parts of the great army and he would still have been a threat to us. The warrior, been a threat to us. Getting rid of the emperor was the real key, the young man observes. And you were also hoping to perhaps get a chance to kill the emperor right there on the battlefield, the young man suddenly realizes. But how? The warrior grins. Yes, indeed, by exploiting his overconfidence. It was a low chance and a high risk part of the plan. We ran through all the scenarios on the duel stage. We were fairly certain that the emperor would fall into our ploy. The emperor would fall for our ploy of challenging him through the guards. He is too prideful and vain not to. But that was not enough. The emperor, despite those qualities, was not a fool. It was his love of the blood sports that tipped the balance, his love of seeing good fighters and warriors humiliated. He took special delight in that, not just, have, not just in having his guard defeat them, but also have the giants chase down those that cut and ran. He sometimes would torture some of a group, making the others watch knowing their turn was coming. but leaving them unbound so they could run, even though there was nowhere to run to, surrounded as they always were by the great army. He enjoyed seeing the dilemma play out on his victims' faces and seeing the giants chase them down. It was a massive indulgence of his, and what led to his downfall. As indulgences. Oh, sorry, this is you.
Was well, let's just try to talk that into you.
It's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
As indulgences inevitably do.
The old man added with a sharp look to the young man, who blushed and nodded. Yes, master, I will be prudent.
Not enough.
The old man reprimands. You must be,
Impeccable.
the young man says, acknowledging his commitment to this. The warrior continues. There were many ways the dueling could play out. I could have been forced to fight each and every guard in turn, although at some point we thought the emperor would not want to lose his entire guard. He did not need them, but not having them there would create a hole. He would look naked, and that could invite someone to take a chance. He would probably have set the remaining guards to fight me all at once at some point, but I felt that I would have a chance even then. They are good, the guard, but all were flawed. They were more executioners than fighters or warriors. They continually fought in mismatched fights. I infiltrated in disguise and watched many of those fights. So, had it come to a group fight with even half of them, I would probably still have defeated them. The warrior says this simply as a fact. It comes from a very honest and sober appraisal of his own skills. He knows precisely what he is capable of. Had that happened, the same end result would have happened with the emperor ordering the giants to kill me. But we were hoping for another possibility, for the emperor to fight me himself. The warrior sees the young man's eyes widen. It was information he did not have and was not obvious. Yes, he chuckles. The emperor was a formidable warrior in his own right, easily one of the best in the great army, and if not maybe the best. He took great pride in his skills, and unlike the gods, he tested himself in real fights, but always against opponents that were very good, but that he nonetheless felt he could beat. That was one of the reasons I had to disguise my true skill, but at the same time show I had skills. It was delicate managing that. It could never also look like I was deliberately hiding my skills. It had to seem accidental or based on misperception. It was exquisite, the boy compliments.
Yes, indeed. Exquisite.
The old man adds. Rare for him to make such a direct compliment. The warrior shuffles uncomfortably, his modesty and humility making him squirm a bit to the delight of the young man and bringing a smile to the old man. Never too old, he adds and laughs fondly, surprising the young man and the warrior. This just adds to the mirth of the old man who breaks out laughing.
You still cling to illusions.
He says cryptically.
The illusions that you think
He pauses dramatically.
that you know me.
He gives them both a smack on the head and breaks out into even harder laughter. The young man and the warrior just smile a bit ruefully and shake their heads. The old man was unfathomable indeed. But if you had killed the emperor in a duel, the young man returns to the thread. Yes. If that had come to pass, then most likely the same would have ensued, with the giants reacting on their own. It would have been much more risky for me. Whichever king seeks power, most likely the Red King, might have ordered everyone to kill me. It was a huge risk, but I felt also, that killing the emperor was vital. We felt that none of the other kings could hold it all together, and they would quickly break apart, fighting each other. The Red King was only marginally stronger, and most of the others all regarded themselves as his equal or better. Thus, it still have been chaos. You were prepared for that sacrifice, the young man acknowledges gravely. Yes, the warrior says simply. No further explanation needed. But I got lucky. With the axeman, the young man jumps in eagerly, keen to change the subject by showing his understanding. Good, the warrior nods. You noticed.
Um. Thank you. And a lot more besides.
the old man says, surprising them.
He missed little, but there are still questions he needs to ask.
Yes, the young man says. How did the word spread so fast? What were you shouting? He sees a sly grin on the warrior's face and puts it together. Infiltrators, of course. Yes, we had them in auxiliary armies that are on the edges, outside the firewall range, and where we needed it most, amongst camp followers and messages that arrived at just the right time. The warrior had a mischievous gleam in his eyes. Those messengers were a large part of it. A messenger that spreads panic is like a plague. They are more readily believed. New and unknown messages are a common sight and are seldom challenged on the outskirts of armies. Once the trouble started, they made haste as if they had important news and rode into the armies and began spreading the word. We are not without casualties on this day, the warrior reminds grimly. Many of the infiltrators and scouts did not make it. There were a few select volunteers that had been in the armies for a long time. They were inside the firewall range. Some made it to the safety of the cliffs, but not all. The young man nodded gravely at this, respecting the sacrifice. After a while, he asks, "The arrow, how did you manage that? How did you then know the emperor would be there?" Ah, the arrow. The warrior smiles. I had quite a bit of leeway with left and right, more than it may have seemed, and a little with up and down. The key was to get the platform moving to the gap. Once they got close, there was really only one path for it to fit. And in times of chaos or threat, the personal guard crowd close to the emperor to protect him from potential infiltrator assassins, who always use opportunities like that to strike. Also, from one of the other kings who might seize on the moment. But they too would have their retinues close to protect them. We knew there would be not too much room to move on the platform. It was all in the that last part of my run was by far the most dangerous. It was very, very close a few times. He smiled with a huge gleam. It was fun.
Excuse me. Crazy fool.
The old man says, shaking his head. But the arrow was more important than simply to kill the emperor. Oh, the boy half says, half asks, surprise. Yes, we felt the symbol of an arrow would be powerful. It was the emperor's deepest fear. He many times said he had been warned by soothsayers against arrows. To have him be seen to die from an arrow would be devastating to those near him and the soldiers close by. It would mean that the fates had turned. Such small things are the tinder that fuels the blade. The infiltrators and the messengers also shouted, "The emperor's been shot!" amongst other shouts. Besides, there's a certain poetry to it. No? He grins at the old man, who nods and adds, "It just seemed right for him to die that way. Like the fates would assist if they could. And they did. That was no ordinary shot." Sorry, I had a big point there. The young man is impressed, but says nothing. Why did we simply not set the Emperor's platform on fire with the catapults and the fire jars? Yes, that indeed is the question, the warrior said. We considered that. It is a great idea, but the practical details made it difficult to accomplish. Consider. We did not know exactly where the Emperor's platform would come to rest. Somewhere near the gap, yes, but not precisely enough to pre aim the catapults. Yes, we could set them to blanket a large area, but the problem with that is the delay time and precision. There would not only be the potential holes in the coverage, but from the time the catapults reveal themselves to the time the jars land and catch fire is a fair amount of time. The cliffs were being constantly watched. With early warning, the emperor could easily flee to safety before the jars landed. He's a fit warrior, remember. He can move very quickly and has done so in times of emergency. Reaching the bottom of the cliffs would provide much safety. The warrior continued. The same would apply to the army. We could kill a great many, yes, but armies trained to function during attacks from without. Many inside the firewall would have survived if there was order. They would have spread to the bottom cliff walls and done an orderly retreat away to the sides. We'd have rolled fire jars over the edges, but the cliffs top extend out a bit, and at the bottom there are many large rocks and small caves and fissures. All that would have provided some measure of protection. There was another problem. Yes, the army had fights break out continuously among them and with individual armies. As these things are with soldiers. But the inter-army fighting was never serious or much of a problem unless it was coordinated or directed from one of the kings, and that takes pre-planning. It was mostly lack of discipline from individual soldiers, and the troublemakers would always be severely punished afterwards. So even if we succeeded in killing the emperor and the kings with the fire jars, the great army would still have remained intact. The commanders and generals would have moved them out of range while the emperor burned. The emperor had many capable generals, and they were spread out amongst the great army, and most were loyal to the emperor. I see, says the young man, filling the gap left for him to complete the analysis. We needed chaos. Soldiers may fight amongst themselves for personal reasons, but they do not readily go to war. That needs leadership. If the emperor and the kings were killed, the command structures of the army would still be in place. Most likely, after being ordered to retreat out of range, they would simply have waited for further orders. Most soldiers never get their orders from the emperor or the king anyway, and they seldom even see them. The orders are always through the command structures. Yes, very good, the warrior approves. The generals would make effort to hold the armies together, for without an army, a general is nothing really. The generals would have looked for a leader to continue if there was any chance of doing so. It is what they live for, the generals, war. They do everything they can to make it happen and to keep it going. We only needed to decapitate the dragon. Sorry, we not only needed to decapitate the dragon, but destroy its body as well. The warrior smiles at the boy's analogy, recognizing its origins. Yes, we needed an assassination and an insurrection. We needed to make the situation so hopeless and chaotic that all discipline breaks down. And once that point is reached, all power from the command structure disappears instantly. The generals know this all too well. It is why discipline in armies is so fierce. Soldiers are almost always unwilling participants, for good reasons. They are the ones that do the dying. And just starting with that wide semicircle firewall and bringing it in closer while destroying a large part of the great army would have led to the same problem, the young man adds. And he's putting it all together. If we had assassinated the emperor and the kings, it would probably have led to the eventual breakup of the great army. But not today, not right away. There was still a most likely chance that we would have been attacked today. Yes, indeed, the warrior says. We needed the great army to tear itself apart, for the soldiers to not only turn on the kings, but also the giants. They are a problem. They are susceptible to strong leadership and lazy. Being in the army suits them. They are fed and looked after, provided for, and to them, they have little to do for this. They are a mean bunch who enjoy killing. Today, most of the giants known to exist were here. They are bred from ordinary women. It is an ugly business. But after today, they are not a problem anymore. They are mostly hated. They are most hated. Most died in the fire, as most were closed in, and the rest was slaughtered when the chaos broke out. Many of the giants killing other giants as well. They truly were the product of the worst of man, just enlarged. The warrior shakes off the melancholy and brightens. But I am pleased you saved the elephants. It was lucky that almost all were out of range anyway, but I noticed a judgment to the range of the fire jars near some of the elephant ranks. Well done. He claps the young man on the shoulder. And what is the real lesson of the day? That the impossible is not always impossible, the young man replies. We simply have to choose to believe it is not. We have to insist that there is a way and be thorough, no, impeccable, in searching for options. We have to apply all our gathering in elements, exercise our all in finding and creating solutions. If we do that, then in the end, it is simple really. There is almost always a path revealed. The challenge is to take it when it comes. Excellent, the warrior smiles broadly. You sound just like someone I know. Soon you'll be bald and wrinkly too. He breaks into laughter at the look of mock horror on the face of the young man. The old man feigns at not being entirely amused, but gives over and joins the laughter. The end. Anyway, you like that? You enjoy the story, Rachel? Did you go? Ah, you were muted. Sorry. You like that? You
I
joined
clicked
it?
the button just on the last second.
Ah, it's
Um,
okay. You
I
enjoyed
never
the
really
story?
imagined the old man as being bald.
Oh, okay. Well,
That
anyway.
was a massive shock. I was like, oh, he's bald. So I got to rearrange that in my mind now.
Ah, right. Well, he's very ancient, this old man. So it comes in a little bit later. Yeah, just a couple of
I,
questions.
I never really see old men as being bald. I always see them as being long-haired, fluffy.
Ah, right. Interesting. 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 Yeah, I didn't have a picture, a nice picture that I could do of the old man anywhere. But
I'll
yeah,
draw
it is a bit of surprise that. But again, the warrior could be teasing the old man that that the old man is going to be bald. You see what I mean? So it could work either way. You see what I mean? Like you could say,
one.
your baldness is coming, old man. You might be proud of your hair right now, but the baldness is coming. I don't know. You might just be teasing him. So either way it works. Yeah, yeah. So
Oh.
I had a couple of like questions and answer here. How come warrior is capitalized but old man is not? Warrior is how the warrior is also called and addressed. For instance, if someone were to say, "Did you see what warrior did today?" Everyone would know whom they met. And when he is greeted, it is always "Good day, warrior" or similar. Indeed, he's not addressed or referred to as anything else. He has a name, but few know it. However, the old man is always referred to as the old man. It is not a term he, of course, identifies with, despite easily being the oldest person anyone has ever known. If he is directly addressed, it is always
That
as
sounds like a dig.
yeah. If he is directly addressed, it is always as master or teacher. But in conversation amongst the people of the mountain kingdom, he is always referred to as the old man. He does not particularly care for master or teacher either. He does not have a name, at least not as far as anyone knows. He has been around so long that no one can remember where he originates from. And if indeed he ever did have a name, there is much speculation about his origins, but no one can say for sure. He could even have been born outside the mountain kingdom. He's a mysterious old fellow and hard to fathom or pin down with specific characterization. He makes an effort to shatter any that may arise. Thus, the old man is all that is usable. So, I know if there are more questions, ask away. Ask away.
I can see how you've taken like what people would usually see as an insult. Like if someone referred to me as the crone, you're so old. You're so
Right,
old. No one remembers your name.
right,
I
exactly.
would fucking lever them. Oh
Exactly.
my God.
Exactly. Turn a disadvantage into an advantage, in other words, right?
It's taking. It's like the word slut, right?
Right. I'm listening. I'm just gonna go get some food while you explain.
Okay. It's like the word slut. When a female is called a slut, she takes it as an insult, as oh you're so easy, you just open your legs for anyone. Kind of like town bike is what we use here. She's the town bike because everybody gets a ride. Um,
Yeah, I know the expression.
but you take that word slut, like someone like me, I'll take the word slut and I'd use it as empowerment. As saying, yeah, I can't be tied down. I can't.
Give me 1 second.
No one. I spread love. If you look at it that way.
Sorry, Rachel. Give me 1 second while I just go and get this food. I am otherwise I won't be able to hear you for a second. 1 second.
Okay, okay. Uh oh. Ooh.
All right. All right. All right. You were saying, actually, I'll just get out of this. I want to just end the live and stuff. So that
I just, while you're doing that, I'll just talk about this cutscene. I'm playing
yeah,
this
yeah,
game.
yeah. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm playing this game by a guy called Kojima, and he's an Asian guy.
Yeah, he's very famous game designer.
Yeah, he's got a beautiful mind, and he's created a new game called Death Stranding.
Beth Stranding.
Death.
Oh, Death. Ah, that makes more
Death.
sense. Yeah, 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 yeah. I think you said Beth Stranding. Is that doesn't sound right. But yeah, Death. That makes more sense. Yeah.
Death Stranding. It's basically you're thrown into this world where you've got a like you're playing this guy who's basically a glorified postman. You've got to pick
Wow.
up things and deliver them halfway across the thing, but the storyline that follows is really cool. And I'm at a point in the game where a cutscene's been triggered, and there's this entity guy, this guy who looks like a human, and he's just introduced himself, and he's just said, "Hi, my name is Higgs. I'm the particle of God that governs all existence."
Oh wow.
And he's just like flicking around, telling you some stuff.